Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. Stay ahead of the curve with our cutting-edge reporting and accurate breaking news coverage.
We're having an earthquake. Oh, God.
Hear it here first on Nationwide 90 FM.
Is that really clip you started?
Tune in, turn up the volume, and listen. We bring a mix of news, entertainment, and sports to your lives.
Nationwide 90 FM's live and continuous coverage of the World Championships in Budapest, Hungary.
News and discussions week mornings.
Coming up in the news at 6 for this morning.
Entertainment in the afternoons, then news again in the evenings.
Nationwide news at this hour. Fired.
Also, tune into the entertainment and sports shows in the nights and on the weekends.
It is Boy Things After Dark right here on Nationwide 90 FM.
Everything is news, from current affairs and entertainment to sports, business, and other categories.
Nationwide 90 FM. This is Beanie Man. Give it to them. Zaga, Zen.
From every whisper to every commotion.
That's rubbish. The KSAMC cannot investigate itself.
Was Clip News really talking like that?
Every news story unfolds here first at Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. Every sound is a story, and every story we share is news.
Christmas starts here at H&L Rapid True Value. Get Christmas ready by shopping the latest in our catalog. The time brought to you by H&L Rapid True Value is...
Nationwide time, 5 o'clock.
Crisp and refreshing. Room temperature or chilled. A Pure Water would drink. The temperature by Pure Water is...
It's 30 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 26 in Montego Bay.
From the Nationwide News Network, comprehensive, incisive, tough. This is Nationwide at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Robian Williams.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
In Nationwide News at this hour, the evidence was just not there.
That's the reaction of defense attorneys for the 3 JDF soldiers freed of the charge of killing businessman Keith Clark.
Despite all the evidence called and the documents including forensic reports that were brought to bear, they could not reach a standard.
And Keith Clark's widow and daughters were visibly sad as they left the Supreme Court building hand in hand.
Case against woman charged with the abduction and murder of 8-year-old Danielle Roe postponed until December 2.
The government is planning to launch a website which provides a database and repair updates on all roads across the country.
In news from the rest of the world, Charity says ambulance patients killed in Haiti attack.
Top Senate Democrat calls on House to release ethics report on Matt Gaetz, Trump's controversial pick for Attorney General.
And in headline sports, West Indies staging recovery against England in 3rd T20 International in St. Lucia.
And later in our broadcast, in our cover story at 5:35, Presiding Judge Justice Dale Palmer has ruled that the 3 soldiers charged with the 2010 killing of businessman Keith Clark have no case to answer, meaning they're now free. We'll chronicle the timeline of events.
In public opinion at 6:26, we ask, what's your reaction to the 3 soldiers in the Keith Clark murder case walking free? Give us your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting us at Nationwide Radio, and message us on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693. You can also leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide 90 FM.
In the nation's business at 6:40, the Entertainment Ministry has launched a life and health insurance plan for entertainers. We'll hear more from Portfolio Minister Olivia Grange. We'll also get reactions from musician Nadine Sutherland and actress Rosemary Murray.
And at 8, it's Jamaican Dads with Dennis Brooks, Garth Williams, Marlon Campbell, and Floyd Green.
All these and more as we take you home on air on your mobile, Nationwide 90 FM, Nationwide Radio, JM.com, and on the Nationwide app available on Google Play and the App Store. This Thursday afternoon, Thursday, November 14, 2024.
News at 5 is brought to you by KFC's Popcorn Chicken, now available in barbecue. Do whatever the crunch you want with KFC's Popcorn Chicken. KFC, it's finger licking good.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
Now to the details. The case against the 3 soldiers accused of the 2010 killing of Keith Clark collapsed in the Supreme Court on Thursday after the prosecution failed to positively identify them as the men responsible for the accountant's killing. Presiding Judge Dale Palmer ruled that Lance Corporal Greg Tingling, Corporal Odell Buckley, and Private Arnold Henry had no case to answer. They're now free men. They had been on trial since May of this year. Roby Ann Williams was in court and filed this report.
In the early morning hours of May 27, 2010, Keith Clark was riddled with bullets inside a bedroom of his Kirkland Heights home during a joint police-military operation. He was shot more than 20 times. The security forces had gone in search of then-fugitive Tivoli strongman Christopher Dudus Coke. 14 years after Clark's killing, the soldiers have been set free. The men, Lance Corporal Greg Tinglin, Corporal Odell Buckley, and Private Arnold Henry, were freed due to what the judge says was insufficient evidence to prove that they were the ones who opened fire, killing Clark. Defense attorney Linton Gordon says the evidence was just not there.
The ruling of the judge that there's no case to answer is grounded primarily in the issue of identification. Despite all the evidence called and the documents, including forensic reports that were brought to bear, they could not reach a standard where the judge could say there's sufficient evidence that the jury should assess and determine if the men are properly identified as the ones who were in the room firing and therefore responsible for a wrong act. It just was not there.
Clark's widow, Dr. Claudette Clark, and her daughter, Brittany, were the only ones present when Clark was gunned down inside his master bedroom. Throughout the trial, they both testified that the soldiers who entered the room were masked and they weren't able to see their faces. In handing down the decision, presiding Judge Justice Dale Palmer said that neither of the witnesses to the shooting could identify the soldiers. To establish identity, the Crown relied on evidence of 2 senior members of the Jamaica Defense Force, as well as supporting evidence from a ballistics expert. But the judge determined that the Crown's case on the issue of identification amounted to circumstantial evidence. According to Justice Palmer, there were lapses in memory of the 2 senior lawmen, and the ballistic evidence did not conclusively link the weapons fired to the soldiers who were on trial. Records pertaining to the distribution of the weapons and ammunition could not be located. The Crown was also not able to locate the former JDF soldier who was the record keeper at the time. Justice Palmer said the Crown's evidence concerning identification could not stand on its own. He said he finds it remarkable that 2 of the most senior JDF members were not able to assist in determining the identity of the soldiers who were instructed to enter Clark's room. Justice Palmer added that the inability to identify the soldiers hung over the trial. He said it would be unsafe and improper to continue the case and hand it to the jury. The ruling brings to an end a matter that has been languishing for more than a decade. Roby Ann Williams for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, the 14-year-long matter is said to have resulted in a breakdown in the family structure of one of the soldiers who was accused of Clark's killing. Dana Davey has that side of the story.
Speaking outside the Supreme Court on Thursday, defense attorney Linton Gordon says the stringent bail conditions had serious implications for the soldiers' family life.
The bail condition of the men were, although they were not in custody, there were conditions that restricted their movement, including traveling abroad. One of them, for example, his spouse and his child are abroad because of what is required for them to continue their lives, and he has not been able to visit them nor to join them. So on our side, our clients suffered difficulties during the proceedings.
The case was first brought before the courts in 2018 when the Director of Public Prosecutions, Paula Llewellyn, ruled that the men be charged with Clark's murder. The matter was stalled for a further 2 years after the soldiers produced immunity certificates dating back to 2016. The certificates purported to shield the soldiers from prosecution for their role in the 2010 incident. The certificates were issued by then National Security Minister Peter Bunting. In 2020, the Constitutional Court ordered that a trial be held to determine whether the certificates could be relied on to prevent the trial. The presiding judge, Dale Palmer, subsequently ruled they could not. Defense counsel Peter Champagny says it has been a long and difficult road for the soldiers.
This is the end of the matter in terms of the criminal case, and as Mr. Linton Gordon just said, it has been a very difficult and long road. I think if one were to assess it by any measure, it would have been one of the longest jury trials we have seen in recent times, if not the longest.
Dana Davey for Nationwide News.
And Keith Clark's widow, Dr. Claudette Clark, and their two daughters left the Supreme Court building on Thursday hand in hand. The Clarks were visibly sad at the outcome of the proceedings. When approached for a comment on the court's ruling, the family declined. Keith Clark, a prominent accountant and auditor, was also the uncle of Jamaica's former finance minister Dr. Nigel Clark and the brother of former cabinet minister and businessman Claude Clark. A wrongful death civil case filed against the Jamaican state by the Clark family is still pending.
The sentencing hearing for the woman charged with the abduction and murder of 8-year-old Danielle Roe, Coyote Satchel, has been postponed until December 2. The matter was called up in the Supreme Court on Thursday. During the sitting, the court heard that Satchel's psychiatric report and social inquiry report were ready. However, her medical records were not yet available. Victim impact statements were also submitted. Danielle was abducted from Brayton Primary School in Portmore, St. Catherine on June 8 last year. She was found later that day on Roosevelt Avenue in St. Andrew. Her throat was slashed. The child died at the Bustamante Hospital 2 days later. Satchel pleaded guilty in September this year.
Still in the court, the St. James Circuit Court faced another delay in deciding where to transfer the high-profile case involving 3 members of the JCF charged in connection with the 2014 death of Mario Dean. Corporal Elaine Stewart, Constables Juliana Cleven and Marlon Grant are facing charges of manslaughter, perverting the course of justice, and misconduct in a public office following an investigation by the Independent Commission of Investigations, INDECOM. Siobhan Campbell has that story.
During a hearing earlier today, the court deliberated on 3 possible locations for the trial. These are St. Anne, Trelawney, and Westmoreland. However, after a 2-hour adjournment to assess the status of these courts, the prosecutor informed Supreme Court Judge Bertram Morrison that each option posed significant logistical challenges. As a result, the case was further adjourned until Friday at 10 a.m. The decision is now narrowed down to St. Elizabeth or Westmoreland. Justice Morrison's preference to move the trial out of St. James stems from a series of delays since the case first appeared before the Circuit Court in 2018. During the proceedings, the prosecution proposed the option of a judge-alone trial due to concerns about assembling a jury. However, this suggestion was dismissed by Justice Morrison. The prosecution also attempted to transfer the trial to Kingston, but the defense attorneys strongly objected. They cited severe financial and logistical hardships for their clients, who have been unemployed for nearly a decade. The defense also highlighted the difficulty of traveling to Kingston for legal representation. The trial has faced numerous hurdles, including an unmet expectation to summon approximately 300 prospective jurors for the case, further complicating the scheduling of the trial. Mario Dean, a resident of St. James, was arrested on August 3, 2014 for possession of a ganja spliff. While in custody, he was allegedly beaten, resulting in severe brain injuries. Dean fell into a coma and died 3 days later at the Cornwall Regional Hospital. It's alleged that the 3 police members were on duty at the time of the incident. Additionally, it's claimed that Corporal Stewart instructed the cell where the beating occurred to be cleaned before the arrival of INDECOM investigators, potentially compromising evidence. In May 2018, St. James Parish Judge Sandra Wong Small ruled that the officers should stand trial. At that time, Stewart was 50 years old, Cleveland was 32, and Grant was 27. The court's decision on the new venue is expected later this week as the long-delayed trial moves closer to finally commencing. Siobhan Campbell for Nationwide News.
A police traffic stop in Maypen, Clarendon on Wednesday has left a constable and a 21-year-old man injured. The incident occurred sometime Wednesday afternoon on Main Street in Maypen in the vicinity of Azan Wholesale. Reports are that Daniel Azan and his older brother Michael were driving on Main Street when they were stopped by the police for a traffic offense. While Daniel was being ticketed by the constable from the Maypen police station, Michael exited the vehicle and hit the policeman in the face. A scuffle reportedly ensued between the policeman and the older Azan. During the altercation, Azan was shot in the left shoulder. He was taken to hospital where he has been admitted in critical condition. The policeman was also treated for an injury to his right eye. The Independent Commission of Investigations, Indicom, is investigating.
You're listening to Nationwide News at 5. More news after these.
Value Drug Pharmacy offers curbside pickup and delivery of your branded and generic drugs. WhatsApp your prescription to 876-881-6695. The time by Value Drug Pharmacy is
5:15.
Rent-to-Kill Initial offers air purification solutions with triple filtration and unique auto-sensing capabilities that neutralizes malodor and replaces it with clean air. Call Rent-to-Kill Initial at 926-4236 for more details.
The temperature by Rent-to-Kill is...
It's 29 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 26 in Montego Bay.
Continuing the news, Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the government is planning to launch a website which provides a database and repair updates on all roads across the country.
I wish to point out that another element that will come as a result and will be quite beneficial for the public that will come as a result of the review that we're doing is that once we have completed the audit of all the roads and we know what the state of repair is, we will establish a website that will give the public of Jamaica information about all our roadways and the state of repair that they are in, along with a schedule of repair and a schedule of routine maintenance. The Spark roads will be the first to be loaded to that website.
According to Mr. Holness, who was speaking in the House of Representatives on Tuesday, the latest data reveal that Jamaica has 27,000 kilometers of roads. He says the government will also have to contemplate if there's a need for a national road management system once the registry has been established.
There are some other decisions that we will have to make. How should all of these roads be managed once we have the full register of roads? Should they be continued to be managed parish council versus NWA versus we don't know who owns these roads? Or do we need more like a national road management to manage the improvement of all the roads? Because where the roads are now, you really need a massive capital injection. But that is a decision, Mr. Speaker, to come. I'm putting this for consideration and public debate. But we are internally already examining how do we manage all of these roads that we have.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness.
Meanwhile, opposition spokesman on Works, Mikhail Phillips, has accused Prime Minister Holness of deflecting blame onto the PNP for his administration's shortcomings in dealing with the poor conditions of Jamaica's road network.
He likes to keep going right back to the 18 years of when the People's National Party was in government. That 18 years ended in 2007, 17 years ago. And his party has been in government for 13 of those 17 years. So if it is that anyone had the opportunity to make a change, would have been him during his tenure. And he's now trying to blame others for why his own administration had not made any impact on the road network.
The Prime Minister argued in Parliament on Tuesday that the deterioration of the country's roads began long before his administration took office. He pointed out that many of the same politicians now criticizing the condition of roads had failed to make significant improvements during their time in power. Mr. Holness said the Spark program, aimed at rehabilitating hundreds of community roads, is scheduled to begin in December of this year. But Mr. Phillips contends that what's needed is not just another program, but a comprehensive national plan for the maintenance of the country's drainage systems and road network.
I even asked the question, after Spark, where is the maintenance plan? We can come with different acronyms, different programs. What is the long-term plan for our road network? Spark is not the answer. Spark is not being financed out of central government budget. I asked the question yesterday. We have the money for year one, which is coming from the securitization of 12 years of revenue from the Norman Manley International Airport. What about phase 2? And phase 3, as the Prime Minister said, it's over a 3-year period. What of those? So after we have secured phase 1, then what happens to the other years? Because there's no way central government will be able to take $20 billion out of the coffers for 3 financial years.
Mikhail Phillips, opposition spokesman on Works.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
The World in a Minute.
Charity Doctors Without Borders MSF says at least 2 of its patients have been killed in Haiti after police and vigilantes attacked their ambulance in the capital, Port-au-Prince. According to the BBC, the MSF says its crew were transporting 3 patients with gunshot wounds to one of its hospitals on Monday, when they were stopped by authorities and forced to go to a public hospital instead. When they arrived, officers and members of a self-defense group attacked the vehicle, slashing its tires and forcing occupants out through tear gas. The MSF says the wounded patients were then taken away from the hospital grounds, where at least 2 of them were executed. The condition of the 3rd patient is unclear. But the group said its ambulance staff were violently attacked, insulted, tear-gassed, threatened with death, and held hostage for more than 4 hours before being released. The motive behind the attack is not yet clear.
Senator Dick Durbin, the sitting chairman of the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee, has asked the House Ethics Committee to preserve and share their report on Congressman Matt Gaetz. Donald Trump nominated the Florida lawmaker as his attorney general, an announcement that's been greeted with shock in Washington. The House Ethics Committee has been investigating Gaetz for alleged sexual misconduct and financial impropriety. On Thursday, Gaetz resigned from the lower chamber. His letter of resignation was read out on the House floor. In it, he confirmed that he doesn't plan to take the oath of office for the same office in the 119th Congress. He was re-elected last week with 67.9% of the vote.
World in a Minute was brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
Recapping the top stories making nationwide news at this hour, the evidence was just not there.
That's the reaction of defense attorneys for the 3 JDF soldiers freed today of the charge of killing businessman Keith Clark.
And Keith Clark's widow and daughters were visibly sad as they left the Supreme Court building hand in hand.
Case against woman charged with the abduction and murder of 8-year-old Danielle Roe postponed until December 2.
The government is planning to launch a website which provides a database and repair updates on all roads across the country. I am Robianne Williams.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
You can find the news on our website at nationwideradiojm.com and on the Nationwide app available on Google Play and the App Store. News next, the headlines at 6.
News at 5 was brought to you by KFC's Popcorn Chicken, now available in barbecue. Do whatever the crunch you want with KFC's Popcorn Chicken. KFC, it's finger licking good.
Since 1995, we've been your go-to source for everything related to billiards, amusement machines, and electronics. With locations at 1A Lindsay Terrace, Kingston 10, and the Village Plaza, Big Bridge, Savannah, Lamar, we offer top-quality pool table parts and accessories, cutting-edge gaming machines, and more. We also specialize in assembly, sales, and service of amusement machines. We provide unmatched customer service, expert solutions, and products tailored to your needs. Who are we? We are Eclipse Enterprise. Telephone 876-960-3891.
Labor rights, Darren Vaz on the west side joins Anne-Marie Vaz on the east side in the joint Portland Constituency Conference. Roll out in your thousands with the action team at Port Antonio High, Sunday, November 17 at 3:30 p.m. Come here, party leader, the most honorable Dr. Andrew Holness, JLP heavyweights James Robertson, MPs Floyd Green, Matthew Samuda, Pernell Charles Jr., Juliet Cuthbert Flynn, Dr. Norman Dunn, Rhoda Crawford, and several others with me, your host Terencia. It's the Showdown JLP Constituency Conference you've been waiting for. Port Antonio High, Sunday, November 17, 3:30 p.m. Darren Vaz, live camera, action, and see you there!
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. Captain Robman Powell is staging a virtual one-man rescue act. It's not working out, though, because England are atop of the West Indies in the third T20 International at the Darren Sammy Stadium over there in St. Lucia. The Caribbean team sent into bat was reduced to 37 for 5 at one stage before Powell is still there. He came and trying to sort of produce a rescue act. He's currently on 54 from 40 balls with 3 4s and 4 6s. The West Indies 113 for 7 from 16 overs and 3 balls. So Powell 54 not out. The West Indies 113 for 7. Romario Shepherd 30 is the only other West Indies batsman to get into double figures. Nicholas Pooran and Ruston Chase 7 each were the next best. Evan Lewis made 3, Shea Hope 4, Shimron Hepmar 2, and Gudakesh Moti on naught. The other not out batsman is Alzari Joseph. He's currently on 2. The West Indies moving on to 113 for 7 from 16 overs and 4 balls. We'll keep you updated on the score. Australia beat Pakistan by 29 runs at the Gabba in Brisbane today in their rain-shortened one-day international. Persistent rain and lightning delayed the start by nearly 3 hours and reduced the game to a 7-over shootout. Glenn Maxwell, who struggled in the preceding one-day international series, blasted his way through the innings with 43 from 19 balls before Pakistan slumped to 24 for 6 in the first 4 overs, ending on 64 for 9. Marcus Stoinis, 21 of 7 balls, also scored well as Australia made 93 for 4 in their 7 overs. Abbas Afridi, 20, was the only one of 3 Pakistani batters to get into double figures as Xavier Bartlett and Nathan Ellis bagged 3 wickets apiece and Adam Zamper 2. Australia, they are now 1-0 in the series, and it's a 5-match series which will see game number 2 on Saturday at the Sydney Cricket Ground. Coach of Jamaica's national men's senior football team, Steve McLaren, warns his players to utilize their superior speed and physicality when they face the United States tonight at the National Stadium in the first leg of their CONCACAF Nations League quarterfinal, and the game is set to kick off at 8 o'clock. McLaren says the country is blessed with wide players with blinding speed and can also mix it up with the best in defense, a combination, he says, can make life uncomfortable for the reigning Nations League champions.
We have good wide plays, we have good speed, athleticism. That's one of our strengths, and that is something that I know. It's no secret. That's something which, you know, I'm positive the USA will look at and know a lot from the last game. So we need to use that. We need to adapt. We need to defend very well. We know that. We need to be organised. We need to be very good on transition and very good with the ball.
Jamaica will be without Mikel Antonio, who is out on card suspension. Bobby Reid and Ethan Pinnock, who are injured. However, the newest reggae boy, Isaac Hayden of Newcastle United, is set for his first minutes with the national team, and he says he's looking forward to helping the group.
Fantastic to be here. I have been watching a lot of the games. I've been in contact with the coach now for a little while, obviously talking about things and how I can help the team. I think, you know, if people have watched me play, they'll know that I'm a highly committed player. Obviously, defensively, probably stronger than going forwards. But I think it's, creating that balance between attack and defence is probably my best attribute of the game. Making sure that rest defence is good, turnovers, duels, making sure that defensively we're as solid as possible, and then it gives the chance, like the coach has said, the attacking players that we've got in the team to do the damage. As I said, it's been a long time coming. It's been something that I've spoken to the previous coach about. Didn't feel that it was quite ready for me. I had a couple of bad injuries a couple of years ago, so international football at that stage was not really something that I thought was possible. Now I'm over the injuries, and I'm as match fit as I can be considering the game time that I've had so far. I feel ready and feel good to contribute.
That Isaac Caton, the newest reggae boy. And finally, Clarendon College, the dethroned Augusta Cup champions, are on their way to the next round of the Ben Francis knockout, and that's because they beat Kempsey by 3-1 today. Dintil, they were beaten on penalties by Manchester 5-4. Cornwall College beat Happy Grove 5-4 also on penalties, and we're waiting on the final score in the Denby versus Alphonsus Davis game to know which 4 teams will join the 4 semi-finalists in the Augusta Cup. And Alphonsus Davis, they were leading that game over Denby by 2-0. So the final score is Clarendon College beating Kempsey by 3-1, Manchester beating Dintil 5-4 in penalties, and Cornwall College doing the same to Happy Grove 5-4. Alphonsus Davis leading Denby by 2-0 in that game. In the Walker Cup now, St. Jago High School, they beat Calabar by 3-2. There are other scores that we can look at here from the Walker Cup. In fact, their latest, Wolmers were leading St. George's College by 2-1. Those are the scorelines we have for you at the minute in both knockout competitions. And just to quickly tell you what's happening over there in St. Lucia, the West Indies, there are 113 for 7 in 16 overs. At the moment, they're 140 for 2. 140. No, that's just quite. Let me quickly just give you the latest. So they're 118 for 8. That's the latest. 118 for 8. And they've bowled 17 overs England and 4 balls. Let's see if Rovman Powell has been dismissed. Yes, he went for 54. And the not out batsman at the moment, Alzari Joseph on 6, Akil Hussain on 1. The West Indies, after 17 overs and 4 balls against England in the 30-20 internationals in St. Lucia, they're 118 for 8, and they're coming from a place of 37 for 5 at one stage. Yeah, that's sports. We're going to be back with more at 6:05.
Since 2016, 156,000 more Jamaicans are working. This is more than any other time in our history. Your government is caring for you. The time brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister is
5:31.
I don't have no time for whole heap of paperwork. That's why I downloaded and signed up for my 1JN Passport app. Get it all in one go. Download and sign up now. The temperature by the 1JN Passport app is
29 degrees Celsius here in the nation's capital, Kingston. It's 26 out in the western city, Montego Bay.
KFC popcorn chicken. KFC popcorn chicken. Incredible, delicious, finger licking in this house when me dip it. I can't resist it. Once you start, you can't stop.
Do whatever the crunch you want with KFC's popcorn chicken. Delicious, juicy, irresistible. Now available in barbecue. KFC, it's finger licking good.
KFC popcorn chicken.
It's the IMAJ Seminar, The Business of Construction, Global Competitiveness in a Local Environment. Register today. Don't get left behind. Learn how to compete in the global construction market. Tune in to Cliffviews Online on Tuesday, November 19 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. or visit the Jamaica Conference Center for the IMAJ Seminar. Learn about project financing, international management systems, labor productivity, and much more. Benefit from high-quality training, financial assistance, and
understanding how to elevate standards in the construction industry. So tune in to Cliff Hughes Online Tuesday, November 19 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Catch Nationwide 90 FM broadcasting live from the IMAJ seminar at the Jamaica Conference Center. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by Incorporated Master Builders Association of Jamaica.
If it's in the public's interest, it's the nation's business during Nationwide at 5. The nation's business.
Cover Story is brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
Good afternoon, listeners and viewers. It is Thursday, the 14th of November, and this is the Cover Story. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
And my name is Sanjay Lewis. Good afternoon, Siobhan, and good afternoon to our listeners. Our focus this afternoon is on that Keith Clark trial and the case against the three soldiers accused of the 2010 killing of Keith Clark collapsed in the Supreme Court on Thursday after the prosecution failed to positively identify them as the men responsible for the accountant's killing. Presiding Judge Dale Palmer ruled that Lance Corporal Greg Tinglin, Corporal Adele Buckley, and Private Arnold Brown, or that's Arnold Henry, had no case to answer. They're no free men. They had been on trial since May of this year. Robian Williams was in court and filed this report.
In the early morning hours of May 27, 2010, Keith Clark was riddled with bullets inside a bedroom of his Kirkland Heights home during a joint police-military operation. He was shot more than 20 times. The security forces had gone in search of then-fugitive Tivoli strongman Christopher Dudus Coke. 14 years after Clark's killing, the soldiers have been set free. The men, Lance Corporal Greg Tinglin, Corporal Odell Buckley, and Private Arnold Henry, were freed due to what the judge says was insufficient evidence to prove that they were the ones who opened fire, killing Clark. Defense attorney Linton Gordon says the evidence was just not there.
The ruling of the judge that there's no case to answer is grounded primarily in the issue of identification. Despite all the evidence called and the documents, including forensic reports that were brought to bear, they could not reach a standard where the judge could say there's sufficient evidence that the jury should assess and determine if the men are properly identified as the ones who were in the room firing and therefore responsible for a wrong act. It just was not there.
Clark's widow, Dr. Claudette Clark, and her daughter, Brittany, were the only ones present when Clark was gunned down inside his master bedroom. Throughout the trial, they both testified that the soldiers who entered the room were masked and they weren't able to see their faces. In handing down the decision, presiding Judge Justice Dale Palmer said that neither of the witnesses to the shooting could identify the soldiers. To establish identity, the Crown relied on evidence of two senior members of the Jamaica Defense Force, as well as supporting evidence from a ballistics expert. But the judge determined that the Crown's case on the issue of identification amounted to circumstantial evidence. According to Justice Palmer, there were lapses in memory of the two senior lawmen, and the ballistic evidence did not conclusively link the weapons fired to the soldiers who were on trial. Records pertaining to the distribution of the weapons and ammunition could not be located. The Crown was also not able to locate the former JDF soldier who was the record keeper at the time. Justice Palmer said the Crown's evidence concerning identification could not stand on its own. He said he finds it remarkable that two of the most senior JDF members were not able to assist in determining the identity of the soldiers who were instructed to enter Clark's room. Justice Palmer added that the inability to identify the soldiers hung over the trial. He said it would be unsafe and improper to continue the case and hand it to the jury. The ruling brings to an end a matter that has been languishing for more than a decade. Robianne Williams for Nationwide News.
Thank you, Robianne. Meanwhile, the 14-year-long matter is said to have resulted in a breakdown in the family structure of one of the soldiers who was accused of Clark's killing. Dana Davey has that side of the story.
Speaking outside the Supreme Court on Thursday, defense attorney Linton Gordon says the stringent bail conditions had serious implications for the soldier's family life.
The bail condition of the men were, although they were not in custody, there were conditions that restricted their movement, including traveling abroad. One of them, for example, his spouse and his child are abroad because of what is required for them to continue their lives, and he has not been able to visit them nor to join them. So on our side, our clients suffered difficulties during the proceedings.
The case was first brought before the courts in 2018 when the Director of Public Prosecutions, Paula Llewellyn, ruled that the men be charged with Clark's murder. The matter was stalled for a further 2 years after the soldiers produced immunity certificates dating back to 2016. The certificates purported to shield the soldiers from prosecution for their role in the 2010 incident. The certificates were issued by then National Security Minister Peter Bunting. In 2020, the Constitutional Court ordered that a trial be held to determine whether the certificates could be relied on to prevent the trial. The presiding judge, Dale Palmer, subsequently ruled they could not. Defense counsel Peter Champagny says it has been a long and difficult road for the soldiers.
This is the end of the matter in terms of the criminal case, and as Mr. Linton Gordon just said, it has been a very difficult and long road. I think if one were to assess it by any measure, it would have been one of the longest jury trials we have seen in recent times, if not the longest.
Dana Davey for Nationwide News.
And Keith Clark's widow, Dr. Claudette Clark, and their two daughters left the Supreme Court building on Thursday hand in hand. The Clarks were visibly sad at the outcome of the proceedings. When approached for a comment on the court's ruling, the family declined. Keith Clark, a prominent accountant and auditor, was also the uncle of Jamaica's former finance minister, Dr. Nigel Clark, and the brother of former cabinet minister and businessman Claude Clark.
A wrongful death civil case filed against the Jamaican state by the Clark family is still pending. So while the criminal matter has come to an end, there may still be the matter on the civil side of things. So what do you make of this, Sanjay? Now 14 years, it's been quite a journey from beginning to the end of this trial in such a spectacular fashion.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting way to put it, Siobhan, because we have been watching this one for such a long time, and there are a number of twists and turns that we have seen in this case, and a little surprising, I must say, with this ruling today. But it's interesting the way how the judge framed it. I don't think the judge had any other option based on what and the explanation that he gave to the court today.
I'm quite unsurprised that of the ruling. When I saw the trajectory, so to speak, of how the trial was going in the later stages when it resumed, I said, yes, I don't see the judge ruling on this going forward based on what was presented by the family members as witnesses to what supposedly took place. I'm not sure how to say what will go on in further in terms of the civil matter, where there's far lower of a bar to reach in terms of getting. Sergeant, enlighten. When you're talking about a civil matter, it's not a conviction. What is it? What is the term used in lieu of the term conviction?
Oh Lord, that one slips me right now. Need to double check that one. Yeah, I cannot recall right now.
But in order to get some accountability for what took place in the Keith Clark matter, it's a far lower standard to reach, and I suspect that they may have more luck in a civil case rather than a criminal one. But the soldiers at the center of this matter, I can imagine what they've gone through, as well as explained there in that second rap by Dana Davy, where they've essentially had to live apart from their families as a result of the conditions of bail.
For 14 years.
I don't know.
That's a long time.
When you put it in 14 years, I can only imagine the strain that puts not only on the families of the soldiers, but also Keith Clark and Keith Clark's surviving family as well. The difficulties both sides must have faced during the entirety of this ordeal.
It must have been difficult, Siobhan, as you indicated, for both sides, because I'm sure both sides, they want closure. And in this case, we have closure for the soldiers, but definitely not for the family of Keith Clark. So I can understand how they feel leaving the courtroom today, understanding that there isn't closure in this matter.
Well, as I said, we'll see what comes in coming days, but when we come back from the break, listeners, we're going to go through the timeline of events from beginning to now the subsequent end of this matter after these messages. So stay with us.
Clearing personal non-commercial shipments at the port? Avoid the wait. Request a contactless clearance through your agent today. It's more efficient. It's secure. The time by the Jamaica Customs Agency is
5:44.
Upgrade your kitchen and bathroom to the next level with Unique Living. They're the ultimate destination for all your kitchen and bathroom needs, from luxurious shower systems to exquisite faucets, vanities, sinks, toilets, closets, and more. They have it all. Visit shop number 6, 30 Dunrobin Avenue, Kingston 10, or call them at 876-755-3661. Elevate your space with Unique Living, where quality meets expectations.
Need to send items locally? Now there's a better way. Zipmail, a safe, reliable, and affordable courier service island-wide. Delays are a thing of the past. Save time. Zipmail will send it in a flash. We offer door-to-door pickup and delivery by the next business day. You can track the progress of your item every step of the way. Choose Zipmail and let us deliver your next package or item now. Just zip it and forget it. A product of Jamaica Post.
We are the best at what we do. At Hose Assembly and Supply Limited, we supply hose fittings and tools. We guarantee we can't be beaten when price and quality are combined. You brand us the Hose and Tool Boss because we deliver the most effective industrial solutions. Come in and experience the joy of shopping with Hose Assembly and Supply Limited. Call us 876-923-3936 or visit 173 Hagley Park Road, 2 Charlesworth Crescent or Montego Bay Trade Center. Hose Assembly and Supply Limited. More than just hoses. Now open every Sunday.
The Philharmonic Orchestra of Jamaica and the Concert Chorale of Harlem present Éclat Opéra, a breathtaking evening of arias, classics, spirituals, and jazz at the Little Theatre. 2 shows, November 16 and 17. Tickets at Monarch Pharmacy, Sovereign and Barbican, Fontana, Waterloo, Music Mart, and online at Eventbrite. The Philharmonic Orchestra of Jamaica and the Concert Chorale of Harlem in concert November 16 and 17 at the Little Theatre. Main sponsors, the Jamaica Tourist Board and the Chase Fund. Details available on Facebook and the press.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers, to the cover story. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
And my name is Sanjay Lewis. And Siobhan, as we indicated before, it is a 14-year-long matter. And we want to give our listeners a timeline as to how this all began.
3 days after Keith Clark was killed, the police high command vowed that a swift, thorough, and professional investigation would be conducted into the matter so that the truth could be exposed and appropriate action taken. On June 3, 2010, Clark's family wrote to then Public Defender Earl Witter asking him to investigate the matter urgently and thoroughly. A week after Clark's murder, a post-mortem determined that he was shot over 20 times. Numerous technical difficulties resulted in delays in the ballistics testing of guns used by the security forces during the West Kingston incursion and the killing of Mr. Clark. The Independent Commission of Investigations, INDECOM, began questioning the soldiers involved in Mr. Clark's death on December 1, 2010, 7 months after his killing. In May 2012, DPP Paula Llewellyn still could not make a ruling on Mr. Clark's killing as her office was still awaiting outstanding material. She received the material 2 days later. Later that month, then INDECOM Commissioner Terence Williams called for the intervention of Police Commissioner Owen Ellington in its request for information surrounding the fatal shooting of Mr. Clark. INDECOM said since it took over the investigation in October 2010, the information provided by the Technical Services Department of the JCF was inadequate. On July 17, 2012, Ms. Llewellyn ruled that the 3 soldiers be charged with the murder of Mr. Clark. Here was George Davis's report at the time.
The ruling by DPP Paula Llewellyn means Lance Corporals Greg Tingling and Adele Buckley, along with Private Arnold Henry, will be charged with the May 27, 2010 murder of accountant Keith Clark. DPP Llewellyn says the interest of all parties concerned will be best served if the matter is not subject to a preliminary inquiry in the resident magistrate's court. According to the DPP, it's best if a voluntary bill of indictment is used to facilitate the matter being brought straight before the Home Circuit Court once the 3 soldiers have been arrested. Head of the Independent Commission of Investigations, INDECOM, Terence Williams, says his team was meticulous in its work to give the DPP adequate information with which to make its ruling.
I think the investigators here at INDECOM have done what is required to look at every angle of the case to get the assistance of scientific evidence, both in terms of the pathologists, blood splatter experts, ballistic experts, to opine as to the physical evidence and to give us their best opinions as to a reconstruction of what happened.
Mr. Williams says he's confident that the DPP has been given the requisite material to build a strong case.
As a prosecutor myself, it is my intention in every case that INDECOM sends forward that we have done everything that we can to unearth the truth. Not just to build a damning case against someone, but to unearth everything on all sides so that you can have the truest reflection of the various accounts of what happened so that a jury in the long run can reach a decision based upon that. Sometimes scientific evidence may require a presentation for the jury to understand it better. And if the DPP would want us to do that, then we certainly will look along that line to see what we can do in that regard.
Keith Clark, the brother of former Trade Minister Claude Clark, was shot and killed by members of the JDF during an operation on May 27, 2010. The 63-year-old accountant, who was a licensed firearm holder, met his tragic end inside the bedroom of his Kirkland Heights Red Hills home. Mr. Clark's wife and daughter were at home with him when helicopters swooped down on the premises as JDF personnel followed a lead they believed had directed them to the whereabouts of then-fugitive Christopher Duddas Coke. Mr. Clark was shot approximately 20 times all over the body. George Davis for Nationwide News.
The soldiers were detained the next day. They were granted bail later that month. In January 2013, the court turned down an application for a change of venue by the soldiers' defense attorneys. Defense attorneys had argued that the venue for the trial should be changed from the Home Circuit Court in Kingston to another parish, preferably the Manchester Circuit Court. They said they believed their clients would not get a fair trial in Kingston and St. Andrew. The court found that the defense had not shown sufficient good cause for the change of venue, and the application was dismissed. In April 2018, the JDF's defense attorney, Paul Beswick, argued that his clients did not need to provide any evidence to show that they acted in good faith in the shooting death of Mr. Clark. Siobhan Campbell had that report.
The 2016 certificates of immunity say the actions of the soldiers in 2010, which may have contributed to or caused the death of Keith Clark, were done in good faith in the exercise of the function of the security forces. The certificates go on to say this was done for public safety, the restoration of order, the preservation of the peace, and in the public's interest. It says the actions of the security personnel was done during the declaration of the state of emergency in May 2010. Mr. Beswick says according to the regulations in the Emergency Powers Act, the National Security Minister only needs to provide the signed certificates. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Paula Llewellyn, argued in her submissions that there needed to be evidence to explain what were the circumstances under which the certificates were signed. The prosecution says there needs to be evidence to show the reason for the certificates of immunity and to satisfy its authenticity. DPP Llewellyn says the defense is seeking to do these things prematurely. She says they are seeking to stop the matter before any evidentiary material is put forward to the court. DPP Llewellyn says the defense wants to give some sort of immunity retroactively. She says the move seems calculated. The DPP says if the defense is seeking to stop the matter ordained by criminal law, then there should have been more documentation to support the integrity of the certificates. She's questioning why no evidence has been provided to show the soldiers fired their weapons in good faith. The prosecution is arguing that no proper assessment can be made without the evidence. But Mr. Beswick says it's for the full court to decide what was behind the minister's decision to sign the certificates of immunity. He told the court that the defense believes the matter should be stood down so that it can be ventilated in the full court. The certificates of immunity was served on the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions last Friday. It's also understood that the certificates weren't shared with Justice Glenn Brown before today when they were being read into evidence. The matter is set to resume on Wednesday. Whether or not the matter goes to trial now is dependent on the judge's decision on that day. Siobhan Campbell for Nationwide News.
2 years later, the Constitutional Court declared the immunity certificates null, void, and invalid. Nika Lewis had that report.
According to the court, the then National Security Minister, Peter Bunting, acted unconstitutionally because the immunity certificates were manifestly unreasonable and unfair. Additionally, the court says the former National Security Minister issued the certificates after the legal period for the issuance had expired. The immunity certificates were signed by Mr. Bunting in February 2016. This was 6 years after the incident and 3 days before the February 25, 2016 general election. According to the Constitutional Court, Mr. Bunting, having signed the certificates 6 years after the incident and 4 years after the men were indicted, is so unfair and unjust that it cannot be seen to be in conformity with the Constitution. The judgment was handed down this morning via live stream due to it being considered a matter of public interest. Justice Leighton Pusey read the ruling.
In the circumstances of this case, the issuing of the good faith certificates was manifestly unfair and unreasonable, and therefore the good faith certificates are null, void, and invalid. 2. The defendants, this is the first 3 defendants, may not rely upon the good faith certificates at the trial of this matter.
The Constitutional Court has ordered that the matter revert to the trial court and continue.
The court goes on to say it is hereby ordered as follows, that the criminal trial initiated by virtue of the voluntary bill of indictment originally issued in July 2012 by the Director of Public Prosecutions should be restored to the trial list and be permitted to continue. 2. That the good faith certificates or any certificate issued on the 22nd of February 2016 by the Minister of National Security outside of the emergency period were issued in circumstances that were manifestly unreasonable and unfair and are therefore null and void and without effect.
The 3 soldiers Greg Tingling, Odell Buckley, and Arnold Henry will now have to go back before the courts for the murder of Mr. Clark. Keith Clark was shot multiple times in the 2010 state of public emergency when JDF soldiers alleged that they had information that the now incarcerated Tivoli Gardens Don, Christopher Dudus Coke, was hiding at Mr. Clark's home in Upper Kirkland Heights in St. Andrew. In 2018, the matter was halted when the defense attorneys in the murder trial made submissions to have a document admitted that would exempt their clients from prosecution. Nika Lewis for Nationwide News.
By 2023, the Court of Appeal had ruled that the trial could continue. It was then relisted by DPP Llewellyn. A trial date was then set for April 15 this year. For weeks, the trial was delayed due to several issues, including juror absences, prolonged legal arguments held in private, and absent court transcripts. The trial eventually got underway in May. During the trial, Clark's widow, Dr. Claudette Clark, gave an emotional testimony recalling the events of May 27, 2010, when her husband was killed during the military operation 14 years ago. The court also heard from Clark's daughter, Brittany. The court heard how Brittany said she accepted that she may not have survived the evening of May 27, 2010, as she recounted how her father was shot multiple times in her presence. Robian Williams was in court that day and filed this report.
With tearful eyes, the youngest daughter of businessman Keith Clark, Brittany Clark, told the court that it was a night of horror when her father was murdered. She testified that the house, located at Upper Kirkland Heights in St. Andrew, came under sustained gunfire on May 27, 2010. The police military operation was conducted in search of the now convicted drug lord Christopher Dudus Coke. Brittany said it was very clear that the house was under attack and that someone was trying to break in. She said she heard a sawing sound in the house. She recalled how she and her mother hid in the bathroom in the master bedroom while her father climbed on top of a closet. In the bathroom, she said her mother and herself made several phone calls to the police and neighbors. Following conversations with a neighbor, Brittany testified that she started screaming. She said, quote, "I screamed on the top of my lungs through the bathroom window, pleading for help, screaming out with hope for the police to hear. No one responded. I screamed a prayer out the window, yelling where I attend school and that I'm doing CAPE." End quote. She added that gunshots were being fired inside the house. Fighting through tears, she said, "I was accepting that I was about to die. We heard voices at the bedroom door. We started praying in the bathroom. I made a decision to face it, to face the darkness that was coming. So my mother and I exited the bathroom." Brittany explained that by darkness, she meant an internal feeling. In a quivering voice, she added, quote, "It felt like a nightmare. It was a real thing, but it felt like a horror nightmare." Huddled behind her mother, Brittany told the court that as they exited the bathroom, soldiers came into the bedroom. They came in a line. They had very long guns. The guns were on us, and they surrounded us. They asked, "Who live here and where the gunman them dey?" She said her mother identified herself and was talking when the soldiers asked where her husband was. Pointing to the closet as he was climbing down, Brittany said the soldiers shot her father multiple times. She said, quote, "I screamed out and they told me to shut up, and then I saw more soldiers entering the room. He was motionless on the floor." When asked how she felt at that time, Brittany said, "No words. I really don't have any words to describe what I experienced that night." The trial will resume on Wednesday morning at 10. Robian Williams for Nationwide News.
So there you have it, listeners, on that end. Gripping testimony there from the family members, the daughter and wife of deceased Keith Clark. And as we said earlier, the trial is at an end now 14 years later. And just a reminder to the listeners that there's another matter now 10 years in the making. That's the Mario Dean trial regarding those 3 members of the JCF, which is still yet to fully get underway due to another delay in the St. James Circuit Court. But that's where we'll have to leave it. It's now 6:02, and that's the end of the cover story, and it's time for the headlines.
Cover story was brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
time brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy is
2 minutes after 6.
Nationwide headlines at 6.
Good evening with the headlines at 6. I'm Mahiri Stewart. The case against the 3 soldiers accused of the 2010 killing of Keith Clark collapsed in the Supreme Court on Thursday after the prosecution failed to positively identify them as the men responsible for the accountant's killing. Presiding Judge Dale Palmer ruled that Lance Corporal Greg Tingling, Corporal Odell Buckley, and Private Arnold Henry had no case to answer. They're now free men. They had been on trial since May of this year. The men were freed due to what the judge says was insufficient evidence to prove that they were the ones who opened fire, killing Clark. Defense attorney Linton Gordon says the evidence was just not there.
The ruling of the judge that there's no case to answer is grounded primarily in the issue of identification. Despite all the evidence called and the documents, including forensic reports that were brought to bear, they could not reach a standard where the judge could say there's sufficient evidence that the jury should assess and determine if the men are properly identified as the ones who were in the room firing and therefore responsible for a wrong act. It just was not there.
Linton Gordon, defense attorney. And Keith Clark's widow, Dr. Claudette Clark, and their 2 daughters left the Supreme Court building on Thursday, hand in hand. The Clarks were visibly sad at the outcome of the proceedings. When approached for a comment on the court's ruling, the family declined. Keith Clark, a prominent accountant and auditor, was also the uncle of Jamaica's former finance minister Dr. Nigel Clark and the brother of former cabinet minister and businessman Claude Clark. A wrongful death civil case filed against the Jamaican state by the Clark family is still pending. A fire in the early hours of Wednesday on Hart Street in Montego Bay, St. James has left 14 persons homeless. Head of the St. James Division of the Jamaica Fire Brigade, Acting Senior Superintendent Terry Ann Leslie, spoke with our news center on Thursday.
So the fire, we received the call at 1:51 a.m. and responded with 3 units, 2 from the Montego Bay Fire Station and an additional pumper from the Iron Shore Fire Station. Fire was confined to 2 houses, 2 dwelling houses, one which was fully destroyed, the other partially. The one that was fully destroyed was constructed from board and zinc. The partially destroyed dwelling was constructed from concrete and slab roofing.
She says 6 children are among those homeless following the blaze.
It was reported that 14 persons, 5 adults, 6 children, and we are also conducting the investigation as we speak. So the cause of fire is undetermined.
Acting Senior Superintendent Terry Ann Leslie, head of the St. James Division of the Jamaica Fire Brigade. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the government is planning to launch a website which provides a database and repair updates on all roads across the country.
I wish to point out that another element that will come as a result, and will be quite beneficial for the public, that will come as a result of the review that we're doing, is that once we have completed the audit of all the roads and we know what the state of repair is, we will establish a website that will give the public of Jamaica information about all our roadways and the state of repair that they are in, along with a schedule of repair and a schedule of routine maintenance. The spark roads will be the first to be loaded to that website.
According to Mr. Holness, who was speaking in the House of Representatives on Tuesday, the latest data reveals that Jamaica has 27,000 kilometers of roads. He says the government will also have to contemplate if there's a need for a national road management system once the registry has been established.
There are some other decisions that we will have to make. How should all of these roads be managed once we have the full register of roads? Should they be continue to be managed parish council versus NWA versus we don't know who owns these roads? Or do we need more like a national road management to manage the improvement of all the roads? because where the roads are now, you really need a massive capital injection. But that is a decision, Mr. Speaker, to come. I'm putting this for consideration and public debate. But we are internally already examining how do we manage all of these roads that we have.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness. Meanwhile, opposition spokesman on Works, Michael Phillips, has accused Prime Minister Holness of deflecting blame onto the PNP for his administration's shortcomings in dealing with the poor conditions of Jamaica's road network.
He likes to keep going right back to the 18 years of when the People's National Party was in government. That 18 years ended in 2007, 17 years ago. And his party has been in government for 13 of those 17 years. So if it is that anyone had the opportunity to make a change, would have been him during his tenure. And he's now trying to blame others for why his own administration had not made any impact on the road network.
Mr. Phillips contends that what's needed is not just another program, but a comprehensive national plan for the maintenance of the country's drainage systems and road network.
I even asked the question, after Spark, where is the maintenance plan? We can come with different acronyms, different programs. What is the long-term plan for our road network? Spark is not the answer. Spark is not being financed out of central government budget. I asked the question yesterday. We have the money for year one, which is coming from the securitization of 12 years of revenue from the Norman Manley International Airport. What about phase 2? And phase 3, as the Prime Minister said, so about 3-year period. What of those? So after we have secured phase 1, then what happens to the other years? Because there's no way central government will be able to pay $20 billion out of the coffers for 3 financial years.
Michael Phillips, opposition spokesman on Works. Those are the headlines at 6. I'm Mahiri Stewart. Sports is next.
Jamaica is good, yeah. I make we enjoy life, while we feel safe at night.
Oi there, I can't pick Aki off of my tree. Are you planty? I know that. Come beat me, Cheryl, come beat me. But she I sweep up over here when the leaf them nasty up me yard. You know what? I cut this tongue.
Keela, Cheryl, how was that? Wanna stop the quarreling, no man? This no call for in our community. This no sound good, man.
Don't bother tell me nothing. You know see how Cheryl tan bad. Me pick 2 little Aki off her tree off of the limb way hang down over my yard. And here she go talk about. She go cut down tree. And that me say, so what?
No bother with no quarrel. No fight. Cheryl, no cut down the tree. Uno live good no people. Uno a big man you know. And uno a neighbor. The picnic them a friend too. We have to set the example for the picnic them. Live good. Me a beg you no. Do.
A true you talking a good son. Take a little Aki them killer. Cause for real, the limb really hung over your yard. We are neighbor. Make we start live good.
Aye. A solid figure man. Live good, me say. Jamaica live good, yeah. I make we enjoy life, while we feel safe at night. Jamaica live good. I better you and I.
A message from the Ministry of National Security.
Shop and win a mega kitchen from Megamart. Spend $6,000 or more before GCT at any Megamart location and fill out the entry form provided for a chance to win a brand new stove, fridge, and microwave this Christmas from Appliance Traders Limited. Visit us on social media to win monthly prizes courtesy of Lasco, Grace Foods, and Facey Commodity Company Limited. Promotion runs from September 30 to December 6. Shop now to win a mega kitchen from Megamart. The best value by far. Conditions apply. Must be 18 years or older to enter. Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming, and Lotteries Act.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker.
The West Indies recovered from 37 for 5 to post 145 for 8 in their 20 overs in Game 3 of their 5-match T20 International Series against England at the Darren Sammy Stadium in St. Lucia. Captain Rovman Powell rescued the innings after only 3 West Indies batters reached double figures. The others, Romario Shepherd 30 and Alzari Joseph 21 not out. Saqib Mahmood and Jamie Overton bagged 3 wickets apiece, bowling for England, who are now 16 for 1 after 4 overs. In reply, Phil Salt is a man dismissed for 4. He was bowled by Akil Hussain. England, they lead the series by 2-0. Australia, they beat Pakistan by 29 runs at the Gabba in Brisbane today in their rain-shortened one-day international. Persistent rain and lightning delayed the start by nearly 3 hours and reduced the game to a 7-over shootout. Glenn Maxwell, who struggled in the preceding one-day international series, blasted his way through the innings with 43 of 19 balls before Pakistan slumped to 24 for 6 in the first 4 overs. They ended on 64 for 9. Marcus Toynin, 21 of 7 balls, also scored well as Australia made 93 for 4 in their 7 overs. Abbas Afridi, 20, was the one of only 3 Pakistani batters who got into double figures. Xavier Bartlett and Nathan Ellis bagged the 3 wickets apiece, and Adam Zampa 2. Australia, they've now taken a 1-0 lead in the 5-match series. Game 2 is set for the Sydney Cricket Ground at the SCG on Saturday. Coach of Jamaica's men's senior football team, Steve McLaren, wants his players to utilize their speed, their superior speed and physicality when they face the United States tonight at the National Stadium in the first leg of their CONCACAF Nations League quarter-final. The game set to kick off at 8 o'clock. McLaren says the country is blessed with wide players with blinding speed and can also mix it up with the best in defense. A combination, he says, that can make life uncomfortable for the reigning Nations League champions.
We have good wide players, we have good speed, athleticism. That's one of our strengths, and that is something that I know. It's no secret. That's something which, you know, I'm positive the USA will look at and know a lot from the last game. So we need to use that. We need to adapt. We need to defend very well. We know that. We need to be organised. We need to be very good on transition and very good with the ball.
Jamaica will be without Mikel Antonio, who is out on card suspension, Bobby Reid and Ethan Pinnock, who are injured. However, the newest reggae boy, Isaac Hayden of Newcastle United, is set for his first minutes with the team, and he says he's looking forward to helping the group.
Fantastic to be here. I have been watching a lot of the games. I've been in contact with the coach now for a little while, obviously talking about things and how I can help the team. I think, you know, if people have watched me play, they'll know that I'm a highly committed player. Obviously defensively probably stronger than going forwards, but I think it's, you know, creating that balance between attack and defence is probably my best attribute of the game. Making sure that rest defence is good, turnovers, duels, making sure that defensively we're as solid as possible, and then it gives the chance, like the coach has said, the attacking players that we've got in the team to do the damage. As I said, it's been a long time coming. It's been something that, you know, I've spoken to the previous coach about. Didn't feel that it was quite ready for me. I had a couple of bad injuries a couple of years ago, so international football at that stage was not really something that I thought was possible. Now I'm over the injuries, and I'm, you know, as match fit as I can be, considering the game time that I've had so far. You know, I feel ready and feel good to contribute.
Isaac Hayden, video assistant referee, VAR, will be used in tonight's game. Schoolboy football now, dethroned the Costa Cup champions Clarendon College. Well, they've secured their spot in the quarterfinals of the Ben Francis knockout after easily dispatching Kempsell by 3-1 at Folger Road today. Also through Manchester High, who defeated Dentil 5-4 on penalties. Cornwall College also through on penalties. They beat Happy Grove 5-4, while Denby stopped Alphonsus Davis by 3-0. In Walker Cup knockout games today, St. Andrew Technical High blanked Charlie Smith 3-0. Eltham East passed Jonathan Grant 3-1. And Woolmers, they were leading St. George's College 2-1 the last time we heard. England beat Greece 3-0 away today to take over leadership of their group in the European Nations League. Ollie Watkins, Curtis Jones and an own goal did it for the Three Lions, who can gain promotion back to Group A if they win their final game against the Republic of Ireland at the weekend. Italy, they needed a Sandro Tonali goal to beat Belgium 1-0 in Brussels. France and Israel were goalless in Paris, while Ireland beat Finland by 1-0. Norway stopped Slovenia 4-1. Erling Haaland amongst the scorers. Over in South American World Cup qualifiers, Brazil, they are currently playing Venezuela. The Brazilians lead by 1-0 thanks to a first half goal from their informed Barcelona starman, Rafinha. Some tennis news. American fifth seed Taylor Fritz boosted his hopes of reaching the last four of the ATP finals with a comeback victory over Australia's Alex de Minaur in Turin, Italy today. De Minaur needed to defeat Fritz in straight sets for any chance of progressing to the semi-finals. However, his hopes were crushed when Fritz stole the second set against the run of play. Fritz, who went on to win 5-7, 6-4, 6-3, will progress to the last four of the season-ending tournament if Yannick Sinner beats Daniela Medvedev. If the 2020 champion Medvedev wins in straight set, the Russian will advance as group winner ahead of Italy's world's number one Sinner, while Fritz will miss out 7th seed de Minaur, although laboring through his opening service game, was the first to break when he ended a superb rally with a clever cross-court winner for a 4-3 lead. Fritz was quick to respond, leveling in the next game before de Minaur broke again and served out the opening set as his opponent became increasingly frustrated, complaining to the umpire about flash photography in the arena. And finally, in sports at this time, Victor Wembanyama became the fourth youngest player to score 50 points in an NBA game as he led the San Antonio Spurs to a 139-130 win over the Washington Wizards last night. The three players who scored 50 points at a younger age than the 20-year-old Frenchman were Brandon Jennings, LeBron James, and Devin Booker, all of whom were also aged 20. The Spurs center, whose previous high score was 40, notched up his 50-point total in just 26 minutes, and he also had 8 3-pointers, another career milestone. It was a third straight game in which Wembanyama hit 6+ 3-pointers. Elsewhere, the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo hit an NBA season-high 59 points as Milwaukee needed overtime to beat Detroit 127-120. It was a ninth 50+ point outing for the two-time MVP and the second best of his career after his 64 points against Indiana last season. Cleveland continued the unbeaten start of the season, making it 13 wins on the spin with a 114-106 victory in Philadelphia. The success season become only the sixth team to start a season 13-0 and the first to do it since the 2015-16 season Golden State team. Darius Garland led the Cavs with 25 points. LeBron James had his third consecutive triple-double as Los Angeles maintained the unbeaten home record with a 128-123 success over Memphis. James finished with 35 points, 14 assists, and 12 rebounds, while AD, Anthony Davis, he got 21 points and 14 boards. And that will pretty much do it for sports.
For all your scales and food processing equipment, call Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited at 876-968-9612-5. The time by Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited is...
It is 6:21, and before we go, just tell you, the England team, they have progressed to 37-2, so they need another 109 runs off 88 balls to beat the West Indies. England 37-2, requiring another 109 of 88 balls to beat the West Indies.
Are you ready to turn your sales and marketing skills into high earnings? Nationwide 90FM is searching for business development executives to build lasting client relationships. If you have experience across all stages of the sales cycle and possess strong communication, negotiation, and time management skills with a proven sales track record, this opportunity is perfect for you. Join our team and work with the top corporate brands, media agencies, and of course, our on-air personalities. Enjoy networking opportunities, professional growth, and competitive commissions. Ready to take the next step? Send your resume to HR@nationwidenewsnetwork.com today.
Labor rights, Darren Vaz on the west side joins Anne-Marie Vaz on the east side in the joint Portland Constituency Conference. Roll out in your thousands with the action team at Port Antonio High, Sunday, November 17 at 3:30 p.m. Come here, party leader, the most honorable Dr. Andrew Holness, JLP heavyweights James Robertson, MPs Floyd Green, Matthew Samuda, Pernell Charles Jr., Juliet Cuthbert Flynn, Dr. Norman Dunn, Rhoda Crawford, and several others with me, your host Terencia. It's the Showdown JLP Constituency Conference you've been waiting for. Port Antonio High, Sunday, November 17, 3:30 p.m. Darren Vaz, live camera, action, and see you there.
Ready to make every step count? The CB Group UE5K is back for its 13th year, and together we're changing lives. And this year we're aiming for 100 more scholarships, 100 more dreams fulfilled. Join us on Sunday, November 24 at 6:30 a.m. at UE Mona. Let's run for dreams, run for hope, and run for a brighter future at the CB Group UE5K and Run with Passion Kids K. Register now at runningeventsja.com and let's make a difference one step at a time.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Good evening, and welcome to Public Opinion. I'm Robianne Williams. A special good evening to our friends over on our YouTube platform. Thank you so much for tuning in. You know we like to hear from you, so we ask you to weigh in live in the comments section on today's Public Opinion. It was the lead story for Midday News. It was the lead story for our 5 p.m. newscast, and we continue. The case against the 3 soldiers accused of the 2010 killing of Keith Clark collapsed in the Supreme Court today after the prosecution failed to positively bring evidence that would identify the soldiers as the men responsible for the accountant's killing. Presiding Judge Dale Palmer ruled that Lance Corporal Greg Tinglin, Corporal Odell Buckley, and Private Arnold Henry had no case to answer. They are now freed men as a result of that ruling. They had been on trial since May of this year. Defense attorney Linton Gordon says the evidence was just not there.
The ruling of the judge that there's no case to answer is grounded primarily in the issue of identification. Despite all the evidence called and the documents, including forensic reports that were brought to bear, they could not reach a standard where the judge could say there's sufficient evidence that the jury should assess and determine if the men are properly identified as the ones who were in the room firing and therefore responsible for a wrong act. It just was not there.
That's Linton Gordon, defense attorney. So in Public Opinion this evening, we're asking, what's your reaction to the 3 soldiers in the Keith Clark murder case walking free? Your reaction to the 3 soldiers in the Keith Clark murder case walking free. I'll start with the comments on our Facebook platform, where Philip Jackson says, weak evidence lay flat, strong evidence stand tall, so the judge in his wisdom make the right choice. That's a very good one to start this Public Opinion on. Michelle Bernard is saying, ask. Can't put that name there, Michelle Bernard. Can't make you get me in a problem. George Elliott says the soldiers were acting on command from their superiors. Who should be the ones on trial? All right. Prince Wellington is saying the judge did what he felt was right. If the family can appeal, then they should. We've seen these things happen by the justice system and the correct action taken by other lawmakers. Shins for Life says, boy, nothing is surprising in a Jamaica, yeah. All right. Beverly Barrett says it took too long to try this case. Wish the family God's protection. Yeah. Fabian Smith says, welcome to Jamaica. Justice delayed is justice denied. Cleveland Richards is saying it's such a sad moment, so sad for such a humble soul to lose his life like that. Still asking myself what really happened and now to get such a verdict. Natalie Winter is saying evidence is key to any verdict. Yeah? Robert Ranger says it's very sad. So too does Tika Restika. Let me see if I can get Wesley Cunningham, JP, saying it's sad for the family. The man was shot and killed in his house with so many bullets, yet no one paid a price. He must have been killed by a duppy. The court ruled and he says he's disappointed in the court's ruling. If you're just joining us, we're talking about the high-profile matter that ended today. Your reaction to the 3 soldiers in the Keith Clark murder case walking free. On X, Bo Winkle saying justice delayed is justice denied for both parties involved. Don O'Mealy says no surprise there. No surprise. Lack of evidence. Sad. And I stand with Wholeness says God and time. Blazing Fire says travesty of justice. Can you imagine your home, innocent and humble like a dove, and you're being terrorized and brutally killed? Oh boy. All right. On Instagram, Yorkish is saying Jamaica's judge is not the brightest. The Privy Council already demonstrated that. All right. Queen Bromley is saying, I feel like I should migrate. Justice is not sure in my country. This man received over 20 bullets in his bedroom. Ballistics should be available to identify which bullet came from which gun and who had the guns. Plus JDF seniors having lapse in memory. Are they still employed there? This is not acceptable. Okay. And she went on with a lengthy comment. 40-ish fine is saying justice system and the whole Jamaica needs an overall. How we're going to attain that is for God to decide. Okay. And Forbes is saying them did get order to just carry out their job. Them never do it off of their own. All right. If you're just joining us, we're inside the court of public opinion. What's your reaction to the 3 soldiers in the Keith Clark murder case walking free? I turn my attention now over to our YouTubers to see what's happening over there, to see if we can get the comments from our YouTubers. Yeah? Max Romy says, every judge cooks their pot of soup in Jamaica different. That's Jamaican justice. All right. Kevin says the judge did the right thing in a criminal matter such as this, where identity is problem. The accused should be freed of all charges, and nothing is wrong with that. The law is what it is. And I'm going to say that I'm very happy that I'm getting these type of comments, because I see a lot of comments bashing the judge for what he did or the ruling that he handed down. But the ruling is in law. There is a threshold that should be met as it relates to identification, and the judge said that it wasn't met. So him, in his wisdom, him can't go put the case in the jury hand, and it's just not sufficient. All right, but let me get to the comments. Zena Beckford says, I used to see some young men beside them. All right, that's a different thing. Marcos the Best says, I do agree with the verdict. He's saying it's the correct verdict. Yeah? Zena's, okay, a lot of comments coming unrelated. But all right, let me sift through the ones that are related to the public opinion this evening. Fax is asking, why did Peter Bunting grant immunity? And that's a question. That's a question, I suppose. I can't answer that question. Errol saying, I'm not surprised. Jamaica, mistaker. All right. Let me see if I can find some more. Greetings to you, Leroy. Let me see if I can find some more of the comments here. Barbara Thompson is saying, keep trusting God, Dr. Claudette Clark. Your husband was taken away from you in a brutal manner. God saw the killers, and he been the only just judge. He will give you and family the peace you deserve. And I really want to say that it was a very the trial for the family, it was very hard. There were several times that they broke down in tears, including Dr. Claudette Clark and her daughter. And it's really just a sad, sad case. A life was lost. The breadwinner of their family taken. And it's really just a sad case. The defense attorneys, they too pointed that out, that it is a sad case. The prosecutor, the defense, they had a job to be done. They did their job. I see some people cussing out the defense attorneys as always, but they have a job to do and they did their job. Yeah? Let me see if I can get in some more. And on the matter of the case taking too long, the case was initially scheduled, I believe, for 6 weeks, and it started in May, and we're just coming to an end. Whodunit says poor prosecutorial work messed up the case. Roxanne believes that the case was cooked from day one. Alex Smith says it's hard to digest, but this is Jamaica, the land of Friend and Company. I'm sure all those soldiers know who killed the man, but Friend and Friend Company is hard to break up. Wow. Yeah, a lot of comments coming in on this one, and I know many feel strongly about it. Let me see. Ken Youth is saying that the case took too long. There were times when, there were several legal arguments, the proceedings drawn out for several legal arguments. We went to court as journalists. We weren't able to go inside the courtroom because of those legal arguments that were being had. And it was just a very lengthy trial. And it's been put on record by the defense and the defense that, it was very lengthy. Nikki Willis says, so what about the evidence for the shells? Whose gun the shot came from? And that's the thing, the logbook. The JDF logbook was not available. It was not available. The logbook from 2010 to see which weapon was issued to which officer, which lawman who had this gun. So the ballistic expert could not necessarily link any gun to these three men who were who were on trial. The guns could not be linked to them because the logbook could not be found. The judge says he found it remarkable that two senior members of the JDF weren't able to identify the men to say that they were the ones who went in. A lot of things to consider, and the outcome of today, we weren't able to speak to the Clarks. They wanted time. The media, we respect that. We gave them time. They do have a civil matter as it relates to their suit against the government, so we will keep you informed as it relates to that one. Thank you guys so much for participating in Public Opinion. That's all the time we have for this evening, but do stay tuned. Up next, the Business Report.
Public Opinion was brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Annual eye examinations not only assess your vision but may be life-saving. Eye tests may detect serious health issues that go beyond your vision. Call IQ Optical to schedule your comprehensive eye test today.
The time by IQ Optical is
6:35. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Nationwide's Business Report. I'm Robianne Williams. Sagicor Group Jamaica made $6.61 billion in net profit attributable to shareholders for the 9 months ended September 2024. This was despite the difficult economic climate, it says, and several one-off adjustments that materialized in the first quarter. For the third quarter alone, the group earned $2.64 billion in shareholders' profit. President and CEO of Sagicor Group Jamaica, Christopher Zaka, says despite the macroeconomic challenges, a number of business lines continue to grow and lead the market. Further afield, Meta has been fined £664 million for breaking competition law by embedding Facebook Marketplace within its social network. The European Commission said this meant alternative classified ads services had faced unfair trading conditions, making it harder for them to compete. In addition to the fine, it has ordered Meta to stop imposing these conditions on other services. Meta said it rejected the Commission's findings and would appeal. The ruling is the result of an investigation which the Commission opened in 2021 after Meta's rivals complained that Facebook Marketplace gave it an unfair advantage. And finally, in the currency markets at the close of trading today, it cost 159 Jamaican dollars and 24 cents to buy $1 US, 202 Jamaican dollars and 90 cents to buy 1 British pound, and 114 Jamaican dollars and 16 cents to buy the Canadian dollar. That's the business report. I'm Robianne Williams. Good evening.
So where you get?
The new Popeyes blackened chicken sandwich, my girl. The flavor just hits different.
Blackened like it burn up?
Nah, man. Blackened because of the color of the Louisiana herbs and spices. Blackened like the flavor buck. No breading and the seasoning soaked deep in the chicken. But get yours and try it, cause me nah share, yeah. Get the new Popeyes blackened chicken sandwich. Limited time only.
Love that chicken from Popeyes. Are you ready to turn your sales and marketing skills into high earnings? Nationwide 90FM is searching for business development executives to build lasting client relationships. If you have experience across all stages of the sales cycle and possess strong communication, negotiation, and time management skills with a proven sales track record, this opportunity is perfect for you. Join our team and work with the top corporate brands, media agencies, and of course, our on-air personalities. Enjoy networking opportunities, professional growth, and competitive commissions. Ready to take the next step? Send your resume to hr@nationwidenewsnetwork.com today.
It's the IMAJ Seminar, The Business of Construction, Global Competitiveness in a Local Environment. Register today. Don't get left behind. Learn how to compete in the global construction market. Tune in to Cliffviews Online on Tuesday, November 19 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. or visit the Jamaica Conference Center for the IMAJ Seminar. Learn about project financing, international management systems, labor productivity, and much more. Benefit from high-quality training, financial assistance, and understanding how to elevate standards in the construction industry. So tune in to Cliffviews Online Tuesday, November 19 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Catch Nationwide 90FM broadcasting live from the IMAJ Seminar at the Jamaica Conference Center. All this and more only on Nationwide 90FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by Incorporated Master Builders Association of Jamaica.
I'm Dennis Brooks.
I'm Marlon Campbell.
I'm Floyd Green.
And I'm Garth Williams. Catch us on the Jamaican Dads podcast right here on Nationwide 90FM, Thursdays at 8 p.m. with a repeat on Sundays at 6 p.m.
The Jamaican Dads podcast is all about providing men with a healthy, safe, and functional forum to tackle many of the taboo topics that concern our masculinity.
Like everyone else out there, we're dads of varying amounts of experience who come from different backgrounds and often view the world differently.
We're definitely not perfect, but we're all brethren and we're all committed to this piece of rock called Jamaica.
Too often, there are no safe spaces for men to explore the issues which are important to us.
Plus, most of the content out there about parenthood is produced by women, for women. So we think it is important that we be the change we want to see.
Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Jamaican Dads with a Z.
And definitely join us here on Nationwide 90FM every Thursday at 8 p.m. with a repeat on Sundays at 6 p.m. for the Jamaican Dads podcast. It's a revolution in media.
Hi there. Here's some good news for these trying times. Quote, "By God's word, I can see where I'm going. They throw a beam of light on my dark path." Unquote. Psalm 119, verse 105. Listen for God's Word weekdays at 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. through
Oasis. Stop by for a refreshing drink and share a God perspective for the day.
Oasis, weekdays 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. right here on Nationwide, a revolution in media.
The rebroadcast of the Oasis can be heard weekdays at 5:45 a.m.
Good evening, listeners and viewers. It's 6:42 and it's time for the nation's business. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
And my name is Sanjay Lewis. The Entertainment Ministry has launched a life and health insurance plan for entertainers. Portfolio Minister Olivia Grange launched the Jamaica Entertainers and Creative Insurance Plan, that's GSIP, on Tuesday. GSIP provides coverage to practitioners on the National Registry of Entertainment and Creative Industries who are aged 6 to 75.
There's an option to extend up to the age of 99. Phase 1 provides group life and personal accident policies with a death benefit of up to $500,000. Phase 2 of the program, expected to come on stream in January, will feature group health. Funding for JECIP is provided by the government's consolidated fund to the tune of $55 million. Well, Portfolio Minister Olivia Grange, she joins us now. We're also being joined by musician Nadine Sutherland and actress Rosie Murray Tingling. Good evening, ladies.
Good evening. How are you?
Doing quite well. Nice to hear from you, Minister, and Lady Sutherland and Lady Tingling.
Hey, how are you? Good afternoon. Good evening.
So,
hi, Nadine. Hi, Rosemary.
So let's start with you, Minister. Let's start with you, Minister. What informed the creation of this insurance plan?
Well, it is something that I recognize needed to be done. And about 5 years ago, we were able to introduce a similar plan for athletes, the Jamaica Athletes Insurance Plan, JAPE, and it has served them well. I've always had to, as someone in the industry, assist at times when entertainers and creative practitioners experience difficulties, and they were not in a position to fund needed assistance. And I thought, as minister, now that we have set up the athletes insurance plan and it is working and we are able to sustain it, let's look at how we can set up a similar plan for the entertainment and creative sector. Mm-hmm. And it took us a little while to organize in getting the Ministry of Finance to provide the funds. But we were able to get the funds in this fiscal year. And so we decided we can now get it up and running. Of course, it went out to tender. Guardian Life was a successful insurance entity. And so we are talking about group life and accident and health. So we look at a program that would assist the industry. They would not have to find money. We did a survey, in fact, of the persons on the e-registry. And a majority of the persons interviewed indicated that they love the idea of an insurance plan, but they don't think they would be in a position to pay into that plan in a sustainable way, which we had already recognized. As many entertainers, their income is seasonal. And so we said, okay, let us get this up and running. Let's launch it, and let's get the industry on board.
So help us to understand, then, Minister, how will this program be sustained? Because if I'm hearing what you're saying, the entertainers will not be paying into the plan?
That's correct. We have been able to sustain the athletes insurance plan. And we will be able to sustain the GESIP plan. The funds are coming from the consolidated fund. The funds are coming from government. And like other programs, the estimates of expenditure will provide those funds on an annual basis to sustain the program.
Okay, Nadine Sutherland, I'd like to bring you in here. What's your reaction to this new insurance plan? Do you see it as a gain, a boon for the industry?
Of course. You must understand, as the minister said, our job is seasonal. You know, a lot of time we work, you know, the tours are like the summers. And yeah, we get the gigs in the, you know, those who perform international. We get the gigs in the winter and the fall, but the boom is the summer. So when you look at it, it's not like, you know, entertainers are not like having a 9-to-5 and that, you know, you can rely on a salary every month or, you know, every week. That's just not the nature of our jobs. And to see this insurance being implemented, Minister, no, you know, there are jokes that how many people she has to bury, you know. There are so many aging practitioners who, you know, are out of the you know, they're past the season of their fame, and they're there. And this, you know, insurance plan can help their families if anything, you know, would happen to them. The health insurance that is coming, we have so many entertainers that are, you know, below a certain income group that cannot afford health insurance. And as long as you're on the e-registry, as Minister joked, it's not that you can, if you want Tony to itself, or pay for the Tony to its money. But even having this, not even having this is something that when I heard, I applauded. I was relieved. You know, I thought about so many people that I know that cannot afford, you know, to pay like, you know, private health insurance. This is a hallelujah moment for us. This is a moment, and I am elated in one sense, but as Minister, no, because she has been there helping to bury people, helping to fund people, you know, who are sick. It saddened me that, you know, a lot of people did not live to benefit. People in the entertainment industry did not live to benefit and to see this day. It's a hallelujah moment for us.
Right. And from your perspective, Nadine, what difference do you think this plan will make for those in the industry?
First and foremost, the sense that you can do your job and not think about this stuff. Just think about that you have this in your life right now. That health. You can, a man will lift sound box, because remember, the practitioners in the entertainment industry is not only singers and players of instruments. You have the man who will lift the sound box. You have the man who are doing little things, and he's part of the entertainment industry. Just think about it, that you get sick and you can just go to a doctor and you have your prescription can be filled, and you couldn't do this from before. Just think about what this is doing to your mindset, to your spirit, how you basically turn up. You know, this is good for people's mental health. Come on, this is good for people's lives. This is good for people's family. You know, it's just like it resonates on so many different levels for practitioners in the entertainment industry.
And Lady Rosemary, this kind of thing for an actress like you, where a lot can happen while you're on the job and you could sustain injury, does this give you some peace of mind going forward?
Peace of mind is an understatement. I'll go even further than that. 7 years ago, I experienced a life-threatening illness, and it so happened at that time that insurance policies had lapsed because of a situation on the job where I wasn't paid. And let me tell you, it's not a good feeling to have had a major heart attack and not know how I was going to survive. And I mean, I'm speaking now from personal experience. And to see this happening now, the ministry actually chipped in and assisted.
And, a lot of people don't even understand all that's done through the ministry to assist persons. So now that it is an official insurance policy, listen, I'm grinning from ear to ear because I can personally attest to a number of persons in theater, because I can speak from that perspective, who are currently not well. People in theater who have passed recently, and they do not have the assistance to lay them to rest. And the reason, or one of the reasons that they probably passed, was because that they could not sustain their medication and to just sustain themselves. And so when I heard of this, I'm so sorry I wasn't able to make it to the launch, but I've heard about it and I'm totally elated. A lot of people probably just think of entertainers as maybe just musicians and so on, but you know, we have the theater people, we have the dancers, we have the drummers, we have, there's so many others who are involved who I know right now are breathing a sigh of relief, because it's debilitating mentally if you know that you're going through, you're giving all that you have, you are doing the best that you can, and then you worry about, hey, I'm getting older, what happens if something happens to me?
Right.
What happens to my beneficiaries? So it's a wonderful, wonderful initiative. And as Nadine said, applause. Listen, we're jumping up and I do not big dance right now because of this. And we really, really thank Minister Grange and the ministry for putting this in place.
And Minister, something that Rosie just indicated, and I want to build on that. The specific criteria, are there any, and what about the conditions under which coverage applies, such as the particular type of entertainment work? Because as she indicated, the field is wide. You have a number of creatives.
Yes. The field is wide. It covers, as Nadine said earlier, the man who lifts the sound box. It covers dancers, actors. It's a wide spectrum, the creative sector. The only criteria is that you should be a member of the e-registry, because what it also helps us is to have data on the sector. So you must be a member of the e-registry, and you must be a member of one of the sector's organizations. So you have to be a member of the Jamaica Federation of Musicians, or the Jamaica Vintage Artists Association, or JAREA, JAFTA, which is the film entity. And so because we want to build capacity in the sector organizations as well. So it's a win-win situation. We're able to gather data. We're able to help to build capacity in the industry organization. Because people tend to refer to the industry as informal. What we want to do is put structure. Right. We want to put structures and build capacity. So we have, from time to time, workshops on estate planning. We never get a large turnout. But when we announce this launch, as we would say in the business, we sell off. We're at standing room only. We have to turn away people because the need is so great that the sector responded in a tremendous way. I wasn't surprised because I know the need. But we want to use the opportunity as well to say to them, with this insurance plan, we want you to also access other facilities and services that are available through government. So we have the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, where you can pay into the National Insurance Scheme, and you can benefit. We have the National Health Fund, where you can get a health card that assists in the discounting your prescription for certain chronic diseases. Mm-hmm. We want to to say to the sector, you must plan. One of the key things to this particular plan, you must have a beneficiary. It's very important because there are many times there are entertainers and other creative people, they pass and the family is left with nothing. So this is not only covering them while they're alive in terms of a health plan, but they're leaving something behind for the family. They can be buried in a decent way, in a dignified way, rather than us passing the hat to collect money to bury them.
Minister.
And they also can leave their family who will benefit from this scheme. So it's a game changer. It's a game changer.
Minister, while I appreciate that this is probably a necessary step for entertainers and creatives, there's still the concern that I think many would have is that there is an expectation that when you're setting up these kind of insurance plans that the beneficiaries should pay in some way. And while I can understand that many probably can't afford the full cost of a full premium and that the government is stepping in with the assistance there, shouldn't there be some kind of expectation that those beneficiaries will pay in at a later date or pay a symbolic amount, even if it's a low sum, to help with the sustainability?
At this time, there is no plan to do that. The Jamaica Athletes Insurance Plan has worked well for our athletes who represent Jamaica nationally and internationally, and we have been able to sustain it. We want to do and now doing a similar program for our creative people, and we will sustain it. Now, if later on, or even during this plan, practitioners want to get a more sophisticated plan, they can speak to Guardian Life, who are our partners, to see what benefits they can derive by being a part of this plan. As I said at the launch, it will cover you for hospitalization. But if you want to go to 23, you have to pay for that.
Right.
And there are others who are asking if we can look at another phase of the insurance plan where they can pay in, so they can put their families on and so on. Those are things we will explore. But this is an important step.
Exactly.
A lot of entertainers, there are times when they are so broke, it's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. They need to go to the doctor, and they don't go because they can't afford it. They get a prescription, and they hang on to it because they don't have the money to go pay for the prescription. So we are ensuring that we start now. We cover those who can't afford it, and later on, if there are those who can afford it but want to be a part of a scheme for which government would, I would say, grandfather, father, or at least have an input in it, we are open to those discussions. But now, first things first, we have got to take care of those who have put Jamaica center stage in the world. Our sports and our music entertainers or creative people, they are at the center of the brand. And we have a responsibility to look out for them and to take care of them. And I'm really happy that I'm the minister at this time. It's something I wanted to do. It's something we have now done. I want to commend the team at the ministry, and I want to say to the industry, make use of this opportunity.
I mean, I understand where you're coming from, Minister. I really do appreciate this, and don't misunderstand my queries on this, but it's still a matter of when you have a scheme like this and there's expectation that it will grow, isn't it just going to become essentially then a growing cost to taxpayers if we're not going to implement some aspect of it in terms of having the artists and creatives pay into it?
But what I'm saying, I understand your point. But what I'm saying, at this time, we are making sure that we provide this scheme, this insurance plan, to assist the industry. If in the future there are those who would want to pay into a plan, it is something that the government we can look at. There is no objection to that. But at this time, there is a need, and there will always be that need. And so this particular insurance plan will continue to exist. No government, as someone had asked, what if a storm comes and it washes out the green and then orange comes in? And my response was, no administration would dare interfere with this plan. They will have a responsibility to sustain it. But I also added right now that no change is contemplated. I just have to throw that in.
Your opposition counterpart, Minister, in lauding this initiative, called for clarity in defining the entertainment, culture, and creative industries, because what she's saying is there are policy gaps in who falls into the ECCI, which could exclude some individuals. And she's calling for you to publicly define and classify the range of industries within the ECCI. Is that something that you plan to do?
Well, my shadow in the opposition recognizes and knows that the ecosystem, the entertainment, cultural, and creative industries, it's a wide spectrum. And we all know what those sectors are. And so in planning, we would have borne that in mind. And we are going right down to the person who lifts the box, who assists in setting up the sound system. We're looking at people who serve the creative industries. And like, for example, government has sustained the PASS program. Government has introduced other programs and they have been sustained. The funds, it comes out of the consolidated fund. We have, through the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, what is called a social pension program, where above a certain age, I think it's 65 or 75, you can sign up and you get a monthly check for those who do not have pension to receive. So whatever this administration introduces, it's introduced, it's well thought out, and it's well provided for. And we ensure that it is a sustainable plan that will serve in a very impactful and effective way the sector for which it's meant to serve. So we are not concerned that it's not sustainable. And in fact, the opposition spokesperson, when she spoke at the launch, I was happy to see her at the launch. She did not make the point it wasn't sustainable. She actually commended us for introducing this plan, and that she will laud and support any plan that is put in place to assist the sector. When a press release was sent the following day, it was sent with the caveat that there is concern about its sustainability. But as long as this administration, led by Prime Minister Andrew Holness, is in government, we know it will be sustainable.
Understood, Minister. And we really should wrap up, but I just want to bring you, because some of the sentiments coming in, and I just want to read one from you. Please tell Babsy that the athletes are different. Why would taxpayers pay for entertainers' insurance when many Jamaicans don't have health insurance? What about other Jamaicans? And people talk about, what about plans for farmers, domestic helpers, tourist workers, ancillary staff, etc.? Why do the entertainers get this specific treatment when there are other categories of workers who either have to pay into their own insurance schemes or otherwise have to find insurance or do without? And I think that's a reasonable sentiment to put to you.
Yeah, but you know what is my response? I am the Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport. I have a responsibility to serve the sector for which I was appointed to serve. And I know that my colleague ministers can speak to what is being said in relation to the other sectors. But I am focusing on the sector for which I am responsible. Do you know this will cover, for example, entertainers, and the people are involved in the traditional art forms, like the Maroons, like the Revivalists.
Yes.
We're talking about reaching to the humble folk who they may start paying into an insurance plan, and then they're not able to sustain it. Mm-hmm. We want to ensure that they're covered and that their basic needs in relation to health, and if they pass, their family can bury them in dignity, and they can also be beneficiaries. I think it's important, and I would want to encourage Jamaicans to give support to this kind of program and initiative. It shows that this government cares.
Understood, Minister. Thank you so much for joining us. That is Minister of Culture, Entertainment and Sport, Olivia Babsy Grains. We also had with us musician Nadine Sutherland and actress Rosie Murray Tingling. We thank you, ladies, for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Nadine. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you, Minister. We applaud you. Thank you for this initiative. Big up yourself, Rosie. Yeah, man. So bad.
More after this break.
Nation's Business was brought to you by BH Paints. Paint it, love it with BH Paints.
Life is precious. Whether you're driving through the hills in the country, the town, or on the highway, remember, slow down and take it easy. Your family and friends are depending on you to get home safe. Speeding may save you minutes, but careful driving saves lives. Since the beginning of this year, 288 people have been killed in 247 crashes, so drive safe.
Brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Tune in to Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. Stay ahead of the curve with our cutting-edge reporting and accurate breaking news coverage.
We're having an earthquake. Oh, God.
Hear it here first on Nationwide 90 FM.
Is that really clip you started?
Tune in, turn up the volume, and listen. We bring a mix of news, entertainment, and sports to your lives.
Nationwide 90 FM's live and continuous coverage of the World Championships in Budapest, Hungary.
News and discussions week mornings.
Coming up in the news at 6 for this morning.
Entertainment in the afternoons, then news again in the evenings.
Nationwide news at this hour. Fired.
Also tune into the entertainment and sports shows in the nights and on the weekends.
It is Boy Things After Dark right here on Nationwide 90 FM.
Everything is news, from current affairs and entertainment to sports, business and other categories.
Nationwide 90 FM. This is Beanie Man. Give it to them. Zaga, Zen.
From every whisper to every commotion.
That's rubbish. The KSAMC cannot investigate itself.
Was Click News really talking like that?
Every news story unfolds here first at Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. Every sound is a story, and every story we share is news.
The Police Civilian Oversight Authority will be hosting its awards ceremony for Area 2 Transforming Our Police Services TOPS competition on Wednesday, November 27, 2024. The TOPS program, established in 2019, is aimed at increasing compliance with Jamaica Constabulary Force policies and procedures. Additionally, the program seeks to boost the morale of police officers. The program is comprised of 4 phases: the TOPS Area Competition, the TOPS Area Award Ceremony, Area Performance Review Meeting, and Re-Inspection. Join Cliff Hughes online from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. as we broadcast live from the TOPS Award Ceremony, Wednesday, November 27, 2024, only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by Police Civilian Oversight Authority.
Welcome back, listeners. We are now turning to the matter of health here in the nation's business for the final hour, where plans are underway for the construction of a long-awaited burn unit at the University Hospital of the West Indies, UHWI. Speaking last here, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton said a burn unit is needed in Jamaica to ease the current burden for persons who require extensive care. The West Indies Petroleum Limited, that's WIPL, pledged $5 million to help construct and maintain a fit-for-purpose burn unit at the UHWI.
And Petrojam also committed to donating $10 million for the first year of the project, with additional support annually for an undetermined amount of time. WIPL said they would donate 50% of Petrojam's contributions as long as Petrojam continues its donations to the burn facility. Burn injuries constitute a significant type of trauma and can potentially become a major public health concern.
Affected patients often require repeated surgical interventions and years of rehabilitation, leading to both physical and psychological scarring that necessitates long-term counseling. According to data from the Health Ministry, over 1,000 burn patients present annually to emergency rooms and local healthcare facilities across the island at all levels of healthcare delivery. To discuss further, we're being joined by consultant plastic surgeon for the University Hospital of the West Indies, that's Dr. Rajiv Venugopal, and Chief Plastic Surgeon at the UHWI, Dr. Guyan R. Scott. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Let's start with you, Dr. Venugopal. Your reaction to this burn unit being set up, I believe it's much needed considering the circumstances that often come with significant burns and the expenses to essentially send those people overseas to seek further treatment.
Thank you for that question. I think the most important thing really is something what you already stated, which is really the extent of the problem. So throughout the island, over 1,000 patients actually present to our emergency room with various degrees of burns. Fortunately, majority of those don't need extensive amounts of care. Based on the data that we have, I'd say 70% of the patients are admitted for under 72 hours. That means that majority of their ongoing care will be as an outpatient. But that critical period of the first couple of days, how you manage burns, whether it's small or large, is vital in terms of their overall outcome. So I think the other important fact is that we only get any form of attention when there is an extensive surface area burn. And again, going back to our data, this extensive amount of burns are probably less than 10% of the overall admissions to the hospital. So the majority of hospital admissions, 60% or more, are what we would term under 30%, which of the body surface area being burned. And that is considered to be a smaller degree burn, or shouldn't use the word degree, but a smaller percentage burn, which is not necessarily as life-threatening. You know, once you get a burn over 30%, the entire process inside the body gets a lot more disorderly, and the need for high intensive care support is very, very important. So what this burn facility really is set up to do is really to help take care of majority of the patients that we face. And we've been managing these patients throughout the island as plastic surgeons and other different areas of medical practice, because it requires an extremely large amount of persons to take care of the burn patients right now. The persons who probably take care of the patients the most are the nurses, but there is a lot of input from the intensive care, the physiotherapists, the occupational therapists, the microbiologists, the psychiatrists, social services. And the good news for us is that all of those personnel are present in most of our tertiary care across the island.
Mhm. And Dr. R. Scott, with so many burn patients annually, as reported by the Health Ministry, what improvements can patients and their families expect once this unit is operational?
Well, thank you very much for having us. I'll just put a quick perspective in what is happening. As Dr. Venugopal and himself indicated, it is a problem, burn injuries. It is actually, for the bigger burns that come to us, is probably the most costly medical therapy that is required by the tertiary hospitals, the most costly. And we want to assure the public that big steps are being made to help upgrade the care of burn victims. We started these plans from about 2019, and I'm happy to report that this public-private partnership that is evolving is really one of the best things I've seen in 4 decades. The government, the Ministry of Health, the private sector, the diaspora, because we presented it at the diaspora meeting in Montego Bay, are all on board, and we're in an advanced stage now to break ground. I want to also state that the public should be reassured that right now, the maintenance of the units from a personnel standpoint, we have about 11 plastic surgeons in training at the University Hospital with a plastic surgery program that started in 2014. And in fact, we have put out 3 already. There are 3 more to come out by next June. So the maintenance of this burn care facility will be well taken care of. We are also planning to have nursing care and upgrade nursing care and get training with our colleagues in Miami for this nursing care. So we're very excited about this, and we have a pretty advanced plan. The drawings are ready. The program, the managing program manager is ready, and we're just hoping that the private sector will chip in and help the government and ourselves. But I think that it is looking very encouraging, and I think the future is bright for these burn victims. Even though the main ones are the big ones, which will require intensive treatment, there are a lot of smaller burns that can affect the workplace and affect the output at the workplace that we have to get right early, get them back into the working environment. So this is a very necessary thing.
And Dr. Venugopal, do you have a time frame as to when this unit will come into operation?
Well, as Mr. Arska just said, we just pretty much hired the project manager who was about to start in January, and we're hoping for some form of groundbreaking in the next couple of months to follow. Again, like every other problem, we are constrained by financial support, and we are obviously going to need to press hard for the private sectors to step in and maybe fill that gap that the government might not be able to fill, to really build this out to the standard of any first world setting.
And Dr. R. Scott, we know that burn care requires specialized training. Are there plans to partner with international burn units for training or resource sharing to further enhance the quality of care that will be given to those at UHWI?
Absolutely. I must tell you that it's dovetailing nicely into the Plastic Surgery Association of the Caribbean, which we just launched in Montego Bay a couple of weeks ago. And at that meeting, we had presidents from the United Kingdom, presidents of the Plastic Surgery Association, president from the U.S. It was a very high-powered meeting, and they are more than happy to help us. They're going to help collaborate with us to get fellowships for the plastic surgeons to enter into not just burn care, but other forms of plastic surgery. we'll have, in fact, I think we're having a meeting with one of them, the director from Miami, tomorrow morning. Dr. Venugopal has arranged that. So there is, and also for the nursing care for burn injuries is vital. It cannot happen without them. So they're going to be pivotal and really important, and we're planning to have programs for them so they can get specialized training, etc., etc. So we are linking with our partners in the United States and, to some extent, the United Kingdom.
And I would also like to ask you then, Dr. Venugopal, what is the importance of having a fit-for-purpose burn unit in terms of the outcomes for victims of burns, in terms of the benefit of having it here in Jamaica, and it is built for the sole purpose of tending to such injuries?
Okay, so what I'm going to probably say is quickly describe the structure itself. The structure itself will contain 3 isolated rooms fitted with, special air conditioning units to reduce in terms of infection. Very similar to an operating theater or the intensive care. Isolated because trying to limit spread of infection, 1, and 2, exposure to infection for the patients with these injuries. The other part of that unit will contain an operating theater. As you have said in your opening segment there, these patients require multiple operations, and we're talking 30, 40, but most of those, after the first life-saving sets of surgeries, are things which are usually done as an outpatient basis, which brings into the third part of that structure, which is an outpatient clinic area where we will be able to manage patients who, as I said earlier, 70% are home within 72 hours, right? So it doesn't mean that they're healed, but they're going to require ongoing monitoring and follow-up. And this facility will allow us to monitor them through that acute process, as well as to make sure that rehabilitation is optimal. The second floor of that unit will actually contain a scar management area, where we're hoping to have some radiotherapy, which will be critical in terms of managing, the bad scars, what people will call keloids, and to improve their overall outcome. So all of these things are already being planned, and the design has been passed through the medical architectural system. And right now, as I said, it is just to get the ball rolling.
Mm-hmm. And as you look forward, what's your vision, Dr. Venugopal, for the future of burn care in Jamaica? Because how do you hope the new burn unit will shape the future of trauma and burn care, not only in Jamaica, but in the Caribbean at large?
Well, you took away where I was going, which is the aim of this is Jamaica has been the forefront island in terms of healthcare historically. If you go back to the origin of the University of the West Indies, it started in Mona. All of the postgraduate programs have all generated out of our own island, and it has spread to the other islands. I think this is an opportunity, again, for Mona / Jamaica to lead the region, and hopefully we want to establish a track record that this can also attract patients from other locations that we can potentially help. But it's going to really require a lot of input, which Mr. Arscott just talked about, which is the development of the training of our own people at all different levels. And the great news is, as I mentioned earlier, all of those specialists are already here and we are able to provide care. But the things which are lacking is what we're aiming to touch on, and we're not saying that we'll be able to save every single person, and we do understand that there are going to be situations that we will have to seek for that help and potential. But it is to stop the image that once you get a significant burn, that care is not available locally. The amount of monies that we lose on a patient who's flown out is tremendous to our nation, right? And if you take the cost that is spent on one patient who is flown out, we could build this burn unit, right? And that burn unit would serve a lot of individuals going forward. So, it is those things that is what is fueling this process.
And as we close, Dr. Arscott, for those who want to help or get involved in this project, because I hear you mention the matter of funding, how can they contribute or lend their support?
I'm very happy that you brought that up, because I was just going to butt in with the statement that this is really so possible because of the input from Petrojam, who have been the guiding force with us, the doctors in the hospital, seeing the vision and helping us to bring it to maturity. They are looking at the PR side of it. They have letters drawn up already. They will be linking to members of the private sector. In fact, this morning we had a meeting, and we're looking at the setting up of the bank accounts. How will those be managed? And they will know that they will have access to these accounts to send money into. It will be monitored carefully. So all of that has been looked at, and Petrojam is a major driver with that in that regard to bring that to fruition. So all of that has been thought about. We have members in the diaspora who are willing to help in both deed and kind and finances. So really, once it gets going, I think it will take off.
Wonderful. And once the information regarding the bank account is available, please let us know. It's something that is so important, and we're happy for this project.
That was our urgent discussion this morning. Yes.
Yes. Thank you as always for your time, Chief Plastic Surgeon at UWI. That's UWI Hospital, Dr. Guyan Arscott, and also Consultant Plastic Surgeon.
And we're happy that you called us. We're happy because we want the nation to know that this is being done.
Wonderful. And thank you also, Dr. Rajiv Venugopal. Thank you for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to open the phone lines for you to speak with us. It's 630-937-124 and 618-8255. We take the break, and you can come and talk to us.
I'm Dennis Brooks.
I'm Marlon Campbell.
I'm Floyd Green.
And I'm Garth Williams. Catch us on the Jamaican Dads podcast right here on Nationwide 90 FM, Thursdays at 8 p.m. with a repeat on Sundays at 6 p.m.
The Jamaican Dads podcast is all about providing men with a healthy, safe, and functional forum to tackle many of the taboo topics that concern our masculinity.
Like everyone else out there, we're dads of varying amounts of experience who come from different backgrounds and often view the world differently.
We're definitely not perfect, but we are all brethren and we're all committed to this piece of rock called Jamaica.
Too often, there are no safe spaces for men to explore the issues which are important to us.
Plus, most of the content out there about parenthood is produced by women, for women. So we think it is important that we be the change we want to see.
Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Jamaican Dads with a Z.
And definitely join us here on Nationwide 90 FM every Thursday at 8 p.m. with a repeat on Sundays at 6 p.m. for the Jamaican Dads podcast. It's a revolution in media.
The police Police Civilian Oversight Authority will be hosting its awards ceremony for Area 2 Transforming Our Police Services TOPS competition on Wednesday, November 27, 2024. The TOPS program, established in 2019, is aimed at increasing compliance with Jamaica Constabulary Force policies and procedures. Additionally, the program seeks to boost the morale of police officers. The program is comprised of 4 phases: the TOPS Area Competition, the TOPS Area Award Ceremony, Area Performance Review Meeting, and Re-Inspection. Join Cliff Hughes online from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. as we broadcast live from the TOPS Award Ceremony, Wednesday, November 27, 2024, only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by Police Civilian Oversight Authority.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers. It's time for the covers. It's time to take your calls. The numbers are 630-937-124 and 618-8255. I understand we have Robert Morgan on the line. Is that Minister Robert Morgan?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, Minister.
Good evening, Minister.
I must apologize. I was supposed to come on yesterday, but I was challenged in joining you, but I am here this evening, and I want to thank you for allowing me the accommodation.
Well, you're just a caller calling into the program at this point, Minister. What's on your mind?
No, I listened to an interview you had yesterday, and I think you had a Mr. Marlon Morgan and a Mr. Michael Phillips, and I realized that Mr. Michael Phillips made some comments that do not reside close to the facts. So I thought it appropriate for me to assist the public in understanding what the facts are. The first point is that I never said to Mr. Phillips that there's no maintenance program for Spark Road. The fact is that this year, the National Works Agency has received, from a maintenance perspective, over $10 billion, right, in various programs. $3.3 billion for REACH, approximately $2 billion plus $2.5 billion for Beryl, $4.8 billion for general road rehabilitation, and some other monies that were in the supplementary estimate. So it's about $10 billion. So while the budget for maintenance in the initial stage is about $4.55 billion, the government, recognizing the challenges that are in the country, made additional allocation for maintenance. The second point that I wish to make is the accusation that the securitization of the airport was debt. There is no definition in economics that agrees with Mr. Phillips. I mean, it is actually a bit challenging and offensive that somebody who should know better would come on the radio and mislead the public that's saying that the securitization, which is basically using money that we will earn as a country to pay for Spark, is debt. It's not a case where it is debt. The government had as a program where we have found funders who can give us money now, and we use the revenues that we will make from the airport to pay for that money that we're getting now. So it's not on the budget as debt. It is not recorded as debt. No economist will record it as debt, and no international organization, whether the IMF, the IDP, or the Inter-American Development Bank, will record it as debt. The only person who is recording it as debt is Mr. Phillips, who is not an economist and knows nothing about economy. The other point I wish to make. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. My apologies.
No, finish that point, Minister, and then I'm going to respond.
The third point I want to make to you is that Spark is the largest investment in community roads in the history of Jamaica. I fully understand why the opposition would want to diminish the importance of Spark. they want to diminish it because they were never able to do it. Why they were not able to do it is because they didn't run a good economy that could have brought the revenues to the coffers to give the people this benefit. Spark will not solve all problems, but I always say to someone when I provide a solution and they present a problem to the solution, what is your solution to the problem? And in this case, the PNP has no solution to the problem because they recognize that the solution that we have is the best solution. And I wish that they would be more cooperative. I mean, we had instances during the consultation where members of the CDF and other government entities were chased out of constituencies by in opposition constituencies when they were doing the consultations in Spark. We should move away from that sort of thing. Spark is here for everyone. Every constituency had a consultation. Every constituency will get their just allocation on the Spark. It's not a political program because every Jamaican drives on the road, whether you're PNP, JLP, or no P. And I, as minister, have been given the responsibility by the Prime Minister to ensure that Spark manifests itself in a positive way where all Jamaicans can be proud.
What do you make, though, of what he said yesterday, that what is needed is not just another program? He spoke about Spark, for example, but a comprehensive national plan for the maintenance of the country's drainage systems and the road network. Isn't that a good suggestion that he has put forward?
So let me answer it this way. This government, since 2016, has had the most significant investment in the country's drainage infrastructure and road infrastructure since 1962. You see, the challenge with certain persons like the opposition is that they are unable to understand strategy. So we started with the highways. Maypen to Williams Field, Mobay Perimeter Road. We're going to do the Lucy Bypass. We're going to do the Ocherios, Miami Bay, that section there as well. We did the St. Thomas Road. They proposed a toll road for St. Thomas. We did a road for the people to access freely. You don't come up with those ideas willy-nilly. You had to sit down for many years and come up with the funding, come up with the strategy as to why you're implementing these roads. These roads are not roads that we used to build before. They have fiber optic ducts. They have drainage, sewer lines in there. They have various other components. What we call it is an integrated road infrastructure. That is what Spark is also about. It's about integrated infrastructure development that is not just about putting down mall and putting down asphalt. The problem they have is that they are unable to comprehend the concept of an integrated development approach or an integrated development vision because they were never able to do it. In our case, we recognize that in order for Jamaica to develop and to develop effectively and efficiently and to give the people access in a more, what you would call, efficient way, you have to move away from just building roads. You have to build infrastructure that complements not just the ability of people to traverse from A to B, but also the various other infrastructure, the various other industries that are associated with the road. The fiber optic ducts is going to provide houses that are adjacent to the road, businesses that are adjacent to the road, ability to have high-speed internet, which means that when you want to build a housing scheme close to the St. Thomas Road, you don't have to dig up the road like we have had to do from Ligani to Halfway Tree to provide fiber. When NWC needs to put in a pipe, we have already put in pipes of varying inches to accommodate future development. So NWC doesn't have to dig up a Spark Road to put in pipes a year after the road is fixed to destroy the road. And that is the approach. So when you ask me the question about what they say about drains and so forth, the program that we are engaged in contemplates all of those things. And we will, over the next 10 years, as the Prime Minister has said, continue to develop our infrastructure in a very integrated way that takes into consideration not just what we think may be the rains of next month, but the 100-year event, where the drains that we have now, which we built 30 years ago, cannot accommodate the impact of the rains that are happening now. So we have to think forward. We have to build drains that will think about a rainy season like what we have now, where rain is falling every day.
I hear you on that, Minister, but I think one of the focus is, and you have indicated that Spark is really, as Jamaicans would say, a drop in the bucket. The roads as you go along, the community roads across Jamaica, many of them, they are bad. A sustained program now, Minister, to tackle over the next 5 to 10 years all those road network, especially the community roads that need the attention, because certainly Spark is just, I would say, a short-term program, but I'm thinking what the opposition spokesperson is saying, a bigger plan to tackle all those roads across the country that is really in need of repair.
But no government will be able to tackle all the roads across the country at the same time. Let's look at this.
Which is why you need the sustained plan over the next 5 to 10 years.
We have a plan. Which government has ever said that they'll be fixing 600 community roads over a period? Which government has ever said that they will be fixing 60 main roads and they have the budget to fix 60 main roads over a period? It is unprecedented that we actually have the money and we don't have to borrow it to fix 60 main roads that will have good drainage, main roads that will have fiber optic cables, main roads that will have sewers, main roads that will have good sidewalks, main roads that will cost us $30 million to $40 million per kilometer. These are not just a man going to a community and him dig up the road and him throw some mile pan it and roll it and then him throw some asphalt and there's no standard. So where he's supposed to put 2 inch of asphalt, he put 1/4 inch. That is not what Spark is. Spark was internationally tendered. It was a competitive bid where international companies bid and competed and provided proposals to build the road. Not only that, but we also tendered the supervisory element of Spark, where the person who is, or persons who will be supervising the work are reputable companies that have the staff and the expertise. So when the enterprise contractor, when he's revealed, goes onto a road and builds a road, it is not just about what they say the road is. There's an independent entity engaged by the government that has good reputation and has to protect that reputation, that is going to go and look at that road and do the testing to say, this is what it is. One of the things I want to mention to you, there's a thing going around about the ship, the St. Thomas Road, that says that the government has to be double spending on the St. Thomas Road because of the challenges that we had with the bad aggregate. The ship, which is the South Coast Highway Improvement Project, has a 2-year defects liability period. What is a defect liability period? It means that when you hand over the road, if anything happens to the road over a 2-year period that can be established that was caused by your neglect, your omission, which shows damage to the road, the contractor has to fix it without a cost to the government. What happened in St. Thomas was where, for a section of the road, they used aggregate that was not of good quality. The contractor had to dig that all up, put back good aggregate there, resurface the road at no cost to the taxpayers. The way the contract is written, until the road is handed over, and the road has not been handed over yet. So we are not even in the defects liability period. We are still in the contract phase. Until the road is handed over, they have to fix it. And even 2 years after the road is handed over, they have to fix it at no cost to the government. And I see a lot of WhatsApp messages coming around saying, oh, the government has to spend twice on St. Thomas Road. No, we haven't. Any problem with the St. Thomas Road has to be fixed by the contractor.
Part of the challenge that you face, though, Minister, is that all politics, as you know, is local. You're involved in the politics, you know about it. And to convince the Jamaican people that, look, it's a process and we're getting this done, it's going to be difficult for you, considering that you have an election next year. Don't
Gentlemen,
you foresee that to be a problem?
Gentlemen, we're up on the break. I don't know if you want to stay with us, Minister, but we
Sure,
must
I can.
take this
Sure,
break.
I can.
Very well.
Are you ready for real rewards this Christmas? Reel in big cash prizes and big appliances with Rainforest Real Rewards. On now at supermarkets island-wide. Enter to win cash prize of $500,000 or a stove or fridge. Any 2 Rainforest products, including shrimp, and enter online or WhatsApp between November 1 and December 15. Each receipt is an entry. Enter as many times as you want. This Christmas, win real rewards. Only with Rainforest. Authorized by the PGLC. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers, to Nationwide at 5. We actually have with us the Minister, Robert Morgan. He's on to discuss this Spark program and some concerns raised by his opposition counterpart, Mikhail Phillips. You can continue your questioning.
Minister, just respond to the question. I was saying that we know that politics is local, and you have an election next year. People are looking on the roads, and in some areas, the roads are bad, as we know. How are you going to convince the Jamaican people now that, look, it's a process, and all the roads will not be able to fix by next year, September, whenever the Prime Minister decides to call that election?
I think the Jamaican people are very reasonable if you explain to them and you engage them. Remember, we had an issue with the gorge, and we were able to go out there and explain to persons why the gorge was closed and the danger that it was posed if we opened the gorge prematurely. A lot of persons were upset that they had to pay additional fees, whether it is by the distance to barrier, whether it is by toll. But they actually understood and they accepted it, and we didn't have any blocked roads or any protests. What we need to do as a government is to continue to communicate and continue to engage our population as to why. A lot of persons did not initially understand why we couldn't patch the roads in the rain. So they were very upset that the potholes were emerging. And since burial, the pothole number in Jamaica has increased exponentially. Because when you have a small hole and the rain falls and people go in it, it gets worse. But people, I think, are developing an understanding that, listen, we cannot patch roads when it's raining. It will not, and the same persons understand that if we patch the roads when it's raining, they're going to be the ones on social media complaining that the contractors have thieved up money or the contractors not doing a good job. So we have to make a decision that we're going to do it properly. And I think if you communicate with the Jamaican people, if you engage them and speak to them and tell them what the situation is and why things are the way they are, they will understand. The last point about September, I think people will recognize or are recognizing that the government is engaged in the largest road infrastructure rehabilitation period in many years. You have the REACH program, which is $3 billion. You have a Christmas program, which is $1.8 billion that MPs are going to identify the roads that are in their constituencies. Then you have REACH again next year, which is another set of money. Then you have Spark, which is going to start in December. This is the most significant. And what makes people more convinced is when they see the impact at their doorsteps. When the person who lives in a community who pays taxes sees in January, February, the heavy equipment coming in, and she sees the workers coming in, and the road that she has had for 30, 40 years, that she has been begging her council and her MP to fix, and they can't fix it because they don't have the resources. Finally, that road is being fixed, and she won't have to spend as much money on her front end on her tires. Those are the things that make you feel good. And people seeing something happening adjacent to them, knowing that it will happen to them eventually, are also, in many cases, more comfortable with the situation than they would be otherwise.
Minister, I just have one quick clarification I would like from you. The securitization arrangements that are funding the Spark program, that is to fund the Spark program over the entirety of the 3 years or just for the first aspect of it?
For the first the first aspect. So the securitization takes care of year one. Year two will be taken care of by the capital budget because based on our debt to GDP and our programming in terms of how we have organized ourselves fiscally, we'll be able to fund Spark in the second year without having to go to any sort of special measures. Additionally, we do not know if there will be Spark 2, 3, 4, or 5. Because remember, when we came into power, the debt to GDP ratio, and people may not understand it, is the amount of money you pay for the debt versus how much you earn. So when we came in, it was at about 130%. Now it is about 60. Well, it was 130% of GDP. Now it is 60% of GDP, which means that the government has more space in the budget to do capital projects and to do other expenditure for the benefit of the people. So for the next budget, which is the next phase of Spark, which is 25-26, starting next year, March, based on my understanding and discussions with the Ministry of Finance, that will be funded from the consolidated fund, which means it will be funded from your tax dollars without us having to go to the market to accrue debt.
Understood, Minister. I ask because, as this year has taught us quite vividly that a lot can go wrong in terms of natural disasters and other issues that then affect the government coffers. So it was the question as to how will we be able to sustain this initiative over the next 2 fiscal years after this one has passed.
By the way, do you realize something very extraordinary happened this year? The government of Jamaica and the people of Jamaica had to confront Beryl, which caused tens of billions of dollars, damaged our schools, our farmers in the southern section of the island, damaged our roads. The government did not go to the market to borrow $1 to deal with the Beryl recovery. That is significant. It is the first time in a very long time that a government of Jamaica is able to use revenues that it has, money that it has saved, to rescue the country from a disaster. That is a testament to the fiscal management and fiscal prudence of Andrew Holness and Nigel Clark, where we're able to find our way without having to indebt future generations. And when persons speak about economics and they have comments about what the government is doing, look at the perimeter road in Montego Bay. We never borrowed $1 to do it. That is significant. It means that we don't have to pay back anything when the perimeter road is finished. It means taxpayers of Jamaica will have less of a burden going forward. And that's something that is significant, and that's something that I think we should continue, and it's something that I think we should be proud of. Not as politicians or members of the JLP, but as all Jamaicans.
Very well. Minister Morgan, just to ask you finally then, now that the rains have somewhat receded, has work resumed on many of these projects that were put on hold?
Significant work has resumed and it's going to escalate. And I want to apologize in advance to the motoring public. I know the people of Hanover, and I saw a video of a visitor to the island, very upset. I know that we made a decision to patch the seawall section in Lucy, and it did cause some disruption. But here's the challenge. We are bombarded every day by tourism interests and residents in Lucy, in Negril, in Montego Bay about that section in Lucy, Hanover, that because of the police came out and said the road conditions is impacting their ability. So we had no choice but to start doing work there. There's no alternate route, so people have to drive through where we're patching, single lane. So in many cases, the persons who are doing the rehabilitation actually feel very guilty because they have to watch residents sitting in traffic for a little bit of time while they're doing their patching. So I don't want people to think that we are not conscious of the challenges. We want to fix the roads, and sometimes it does cause disruption. We've seen it in Kingston. We want to do night work, but there are so many challenges associated with night patching that we have not perfected that ecosystem yet. It requires significant logistics of varying components of the economy for us to patch road at night. But we're working on it, and we're trying as best as possible to minimize the disruption. So we want to, in advance, apologize to the motorists as we continue to try to rehabilitate the road whenever you come upon disruptions and delays in your daily commute.
All right, Minister.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us, Minister.
Have a good day, and to your listeners, please be safe.
Same to you, caller, for calling in.
All right, cool. Take care, guys.
Yes.
Well, Sanjay, 7:56, I think that's where we can leave it, unless we have another caller on the line. So I think we can leave it there, Sanjay. Yeah. Thank you for joining me this evening. Thanks to our super producer, Dana Davey, our technical operator for the evening, Damian Cunningham, my friends and compatriots in the news and production department, led by the very capable Cara Powell. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
And my name is Sanjay Lewis, wishing for you a wonderful rest of the day, and I'll be back with you tomorrow.
Are you ready for real rewards this Christmas? Reel in big cash prizes and big appliances with Rainforest Real Rewards. On now at supermarkets island-wide. Enter to win cash prize of $500,000 or a stove or fridge. Any 2 Rainforest products, including shrimp, and enter online or WhatsApp between November 1 and December 15. Each receipt is an entry. Enter as many times as you want. This Christmas, win real rewards. Only with Rainforest. Authorized by the PGLC. Terms and conditions apply.
I'm Dennis Brooks.
I'm Alan Campbell.
I'm Floyd Green.
And I'm Garth Williams. Catch us on the Jamaican Dads podcast, right here on Nationwide 90 FM, Thursdays at 8 p.m. with a repeat on Sundays at 6 p.m.
The Jamaican Dads podcast is all about providing men with a healthy, safe, and functional forum to tackle many of the taboo topics that concern our masculinity.
Like everyone else out there, we're dads of varying amounts of experience who come from different backgrounds and often view the world differently.
We're definitely not perfect, but we are all brethren and we're all committed to this piece of rock called Jamaica.
Too often, there are no safe spaces for men to explore the issues which are important to us.
Plus, most of the content out there about parenthood is produced by women, for women. So we think it is important that we be the change we want to see.
Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Jamaican Dads with a Z.
And definitely